we're in that too, because I know that we had a player do that last year down there, and it's not something that we need to really be involved in. Let's win the game. Let's celebrate with our team and, shake hands and let's move on. That's what we need to do. So I think there's a lot that everybody across college football can learn from yesterday, because that was a bad look for college football.
All right, stop planting flags, stop having rivalries, stop having emotion. That's a little thumbnail sketch of Dabo Swinney, who will be watching the college football playoff number 5 of 6 revealed tonight. Good morning, everybody. Good Tuesday. How are we all doing this morning on the Gary Sharp Show?
Yeah. Down to 4 days left of the Gary Sharp Show.
Yeah, I'm only here for 3.
The farewell tour.
I'm only here for 3, so y'all can do whatever you want with it on Friday.
Peter and Joey. Wait, does Joey know this yet?
I don't know. Does he?
Well, he'll know on Friday when he shows up for traffic and be like, no. Your chair's in here.
Welcome in, everybody. It is the Gary Sharp Show. Gary is here. Jimmy is here. Peter is here. The threesome is ready to go on a Tuesday. But speaking of this show, which we made a comment about yesterday, or at least I made a comment about yesterday, it is the last week of the Gary Sharp Show. This will also be the last time that there will ever be a show on this station that is the Gary Sharp Show.
Yeah, that was in the contract.
If that ever happens again, I will not be involved in it, and I own the rights to my own name. But next Monday, we will have a new morning show in this time slot. Same time, same radio station. One person will be the same. That would be myself. And on Thursday, I will introduce you to my new co-host.
Will that person be here?
That person will not physically be here.
Okay.
But they will join us on air for a segment that is coming up on Thursday.
All right.
Their schedule is a little tight. So we've worked that into having them on Thursday.
Very nice of Sarah Baker Hansen to do that.
A lot of suggestions, a lot of guesses that are out there. But I do think you will enjoy. We have a standard here.
Hey, I'm excited. No. I'm not just saying I'm excited.
Yeah, now internally. So yesterday they told everybody internally who my new co-host is. What was the general reaction?
I haven't been in the building for when it's happened.
Okay.
I just know what I said. And I guess I do know one person that was in the building, and I said very nice things about that person when we met weeks ago.
Yeah. So I saw the email that said, please embargo this.
I know.
Yeah, there's some people in this building that got loose lips.
You start getting random text.
I didn't, but my new co-host did from certain people. And he was like, I thought this was a secret. And I said, well, not anymore.
You just learned your first zone lesson.
Not anymore. So this is the last week of the Gary Sharp Show. The new morning show will debut at bright and early at 6:09 on Monday. And coming up on Thursday, you will get to hear from the new co-host of Mornings on the Zone, The Drive, The Jock. No, none of those names.
The Fan.
No. But welcome in, everybody. We are off and running on a Tuesday after a very busy day yesterday.
Yeah, we stopped talking about bowls, didn't we? Where we're going.
No, what we
how
stopped.
Cold it is.
Hey, what we stopped doing is we stopped talking about a handshake. Thank you.
Perfectly planned.
Thank you.
Man,
but I do
playing chess over there.
I do feel like the way yesterday went, and when you have days like that involve your favorite college football team, or you're going to have days like today, tomorrow, Thursday, and maybe even Friday with a constant news cycle, that you have to take the emotion out of it. I mean, I know people get emotionally attached, and you ride the wave.
Why you listen to this?
Because that's why you're a fan. But I think you have to take the emotion out of it. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, you have to go, well, it's a business. College football is a Fortune 500 company. It is a business. And the news that came out of Lincoln, whether it be from Tony White all the way down to Dana Holgerson signing a 2-year deal.
Oh, yeah, that happened too.
You could look at it as, Jimmy, as a crazy day, or is that the new norm?
That's the new norm.
mean,
I can't wait to see what happens today, as long as it doesn't happen to. Drama is good when it happens to somebody else. You can just sit back and watch. You have nothing to do with it. So who's it going to be today?
Well, I mean, there's going to be the next couple of days. There are going to be some names that you become emotionally attached to, or you definitely have a strong opinion on that may be departing. And whenever like the whole portal activity, and some might have found yesterday more entertaining than actual season. You know, there's a bunch. There's the regular season. There's bowl season. There's Cruton season. There's portal season. There's the off season. There's all of those things. Yesterday, to some, might have been more entertaining than the season that just wrapped up at 6-6. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
But when guys are going into the portal and the reaction is such, whether it be why is Bayor, why is Butler, oh Thompson, Vincent Jackson was still all of the emotions of players and
hey, good on you. Good luck, man.
and picking and choosing like, oh, we got to get rid of a bunch of guys. Why was that guy leaving? I do wonder about the guys that are still here. Like the guys that aren't going anywhere, that are some of the better players, that you just completely like forget about them for like 3-4 weeks.
Wait, 15 Stain? All right.
Is he Jimmy? No. But yesterday was a crazy day. The new norm is probably where it's at. Now, the new norm is not part of coordinator activity. You hope not to have that. But we had coordinator activity yesterday. And I think the best way to wrap up the kind of day. What are you doing over there?
Oh, thing was hitting.
Are you a little limp?
Yeah, a little limp. A little cold this morning.
Can't you tighten that up?
Cars. I mean,
why are you sitting so far away?
I do feel far away from you. Something just feels off here today. We'll fix this. Yeah.
That's why you're not going to be the new co-host.
Yeah. Oh, we just gave something
no, we rolled out
away.
of Canada.
No.
Yeah.
Although that would have been weird if I walked in here. No, your chair is over there.
Announcement.
Do I get a raise? No, but here's some Val's passes. Yes.
Good value in those.
Well, I just opened the door for you just to just twist the knife, huh? But you are sitting like a long way away. I'm not sure why. It does look a long way away.
It does look okay. So
Yeah.
it's not just
Yeah.
me. Yeah, because when I was setting this stuff up this morning, a little bit earlier, I was like, something's wrong here. Did we just go back to COVID? What, do you guys have a divider?
We had shower curtain.
Oh, even better.
Yeah,
Me
so
too.
there was a
Plexiglass.
glass partition between the host on this side and the producer, and then between the two hosts, there was a shower curtain. I don't know if that, of all the interviews in the Mike Thompson, the little brief Mike Thompson interview, because he was the program director here during COVID, and that was his idea, if that ever got brought up.
It's his anniversary deal.
I think when
Hey, it's a story.
I think the first day that he left, someone, might have been the afternoon guys, tore down the shower curtain.
Oh.
And made a vlog about it.
That's got to live somewhere. Somewhere we're going to find that.
But everything that went on yesterday, and you couldn't catch your breath. It was one thing after another. And if you went a couple of hours, you're like, wow, what is Nebraska doing? I need some news. I think the best way to wrap up yesterday is what happened in Denver between the Browns and the Broncos. That might have been one of the best Monday Night Football games ever, or one of the worst. An NFL game was going on, and it felt like it was a college football game, where Denver ended up winning 41-32. It was not a normal NFL game, and there is nothing normal when Jameis Winston is playing quarterback for one of your teams. Jameis Winston makes the Browns likable, and I like Jameis Winston. I wouldn't want him anywhere near my team.
I got you. Again, drama is fun when it's happening to someone else.
He threw for over 450 yards last night and actually threw 6 touchdowns. 4 of them were to his team.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them were to the Broncos.
Who won by 9.
But what a way to wrap up the day when afterwards he's at the podium. And, Jerry Jeudy and Winston had a huge night. The Broncos are a playoff team. I'm very impressed by the Broncos, by the way.
Yeah.
Wasn't so impressed by the uniforms they wore last night, but I'm impressed by the Broncos, and maybe they've turned the corner. But after the game, Jameis stands up in front of the media, and again, he is one of the great characters.
You say he's one of one?
He is one of one. Like they have the AFC North Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have Winston on there behind the scenes. That would be just absolute gold.
Yeah, because what else? The Browns have become more interesting just because of him.
He's a funny guy who likes playing ball and likes people and probably knows what his limitations are, even though he in college had one of the greatest single seasons ever as a college quarterback. But after the game, he's up at the podium. And, the Browns aren't going anywhere. And people love Jameis, and people do love Jameis.
Like Jameis, especially sports journalists.
People love Jameis. They hate Deshaun Watson. I have never really heard a national broadcaster go in as much as Troy Aikman did last night on Deshaun Watson essentially derailing the Browns. Usually you kind of tippy-toe around that. He went all in for about 90 minutes on the narrative that Deshaun Watson destroyed the Browns. And I was like, okay, that probably ends Deshaun Watson's Q rating in the NFL, but he's got that contract which is really untradeable and uncuttable. But afterwards, after Jameis throws the 2 pick sixes and the Browns lose, he stands up in front of the media. And I think with everything that went on around here yesterday, I think this was the best way to wrap up the day. He goes, "I'm praying to the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes."
Did they teach that in Catholic school? Wait, it was more of a running time back then, so you didn't want to fumble.
Yeah, but that's like a fantastic line. That is such a Jameis Winston line. Now, maybe he should have done it before the game, but he said it after the game.
I'm sure the big man has a couple more things that are more important, but okay. Well, hold on, it's Jameis. Sir, he didn't play for Notre Dame. Never mind, moving on.
But last night, 41-32, the Broncos beat the Browns, and now we're off and running. Day 2 of who knows what's going to happen of this week. Let me give you the lineup. We got people that are going to break everything down that went on yesterday and what is ahead. Because remember, you have been warned. We knew this was going to happen. When this just ridiculous thing that has been put on college football, no grace period, no 3-year lead-in or anything like that. It is a straight, you got to get to 105. So there's some hard decisions that are made. Some of them are easier than you think, but you have to play the roster gymnastics, and there's going to be some players in the portal that you go, And it's not just a Nebraska thing. And it's also not just, don't you think, Jimmy, it's not just a walk-on thing. I think when people thought, okay, Nebraska's got a large roster, the head coach said, hey, this is going to happen. It's going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be really good people and players that are going to go into the portal just because we don't have room for them. You're thinking walk-ons. You're thinking, all right, 85 is your scholarships now. You got 105. So it's basically just going to be walk-ons. And so when scholarship guys that maybe just have 1 year left in a room that has a bunch of young guys are in the portal.
Or guys you liked, hey, he was one of my favorites.
Yeah, there's no, Butler and Bayor played this year. But you gotta be smart with your roster. But I think people are on the assumption that, it's just going to be a bunch of walk-ons or just kind of fringe players. And then when it's names like those two, you go, oh my gosh, what's going on? Remember, you've been warned.
Yeah.
You've been warned that this is happening, and it's really a bad look for college football.
Repeatedly. The head man was warning you.
Well, and I think the whole sport was. There was no grace period to say, hey, for 2025, we're going to be at 120. In 2026, we're going to be at 110. And then in 2027, we're going to be at 105. We hit the fast forward button, and all of a sudden you got to get to 105. Now, I'd be curious when we get more of a sample size of who benefits from the purges on rosters. Is it junior college? Is it FCS? Is it group of 5? Who benefits from all of this? I think
that's a damn good question.
There's a lot of great things about college football. I think this is a bad thing right now. I know that there's revenue sharing and the landscape is changing, but to go from 0 to 60 and essentially going all the way to 105 on your roster, I think is really, really not a good look, not a good thing for college football. And I imagine coaches are struggling with it.
Yeah, and none of them like it. They'll benefit later with some of the guys that they get in the portal. But it reminds me of an expansion draft. And we'll use the NBA or any league that expands where you have to allocate players for an expansion draft. People remember the Bad Boys 30 for 30 when they're celebrating their championship, and in the middle of that, they're releasing 3 guys. One of them was one of the true bad boys, and Rick Mahorn, and it gutted the team trying to celebrate. So when this starts happening, you start thinking, yeah, coaches are, damn, I liked him. I think he projected to be big. So you sort of mourn that, but then afterwards it's back to work. It's all right. Well, we have needs, and there's some quality guys in the portal. Let's go make contact. They already have. So
well, and we've been prepared. This is going to be a rough period. It always is with the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And you would like to have guys that go into the portal that are expected because there's not a spot for them.
Yeah.
Even though they contributed to this past season, there's not a spot for them.
They need
It's
a fresh
the ones.
start.
It's the ones that are not expected, and that you start to try and connect the dots where they attach to a position coach, where they tampered with, and it's also the ones that
Who are they following on Twitter?
Yeah, the ones that hit you, the hardest are the young players. Now, I get it if you're in a room that's got young players and there's a cap on how many numbers of players they need in that room, and you have maybe just 1 year left. I could understand that. The one where it hits is young guys that you have developed that have been here for 2 years and are either playing or on the cusp of playing even more, that decide that this isn't the place for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I go, okay, what's going on there? But expect this over the next couple of days. I think it's the new norm.
React accordingly.
It's happening all over college football, and it just happened to coincide yesterday with coaching news, with Tony White departing to Florida State and Dana Holgorsen staying, and then whatever is going to happen to the rest of the staff. So we've got Sam McKewon, Brian Christopherson, and Andy Kendi all will join us today to break the angles down and much more. It's all part of the lineup brought to you by the Rooferies at John Higgins Weather Guard. Peter is here. Jimmy is here. I'm Gary. When we come back, we'll get into Tony White. So Tony White is off to Florida State. Wild times in Seminole land. They hire Gus Malzahn to be the play caller. Mike Norvell's coming off a 2-10 season, and they hire Tony White, who they had pursued for a few weeks. And once Nebraska's season was over, he made it official on Sunday in a meeting with the staff, and then was off to Tallahassee yesterday while the rest of the staff and the team met.
Man, I can't believe Jeff Colhane was doing that much work to get him down.
I talked to Jeff yesterday. He said, wild times, man. It's been an interesting year at Florida State.
Yeah, hopefully their basketball team can at least have a decent year, but I don't know.
But Tony White, good defensive coordinator, off a 6-6 team. It actually could be a good thing for both sides. We'll get into that when we return. Also, more on the portal. Dana Holgorsen is staying, a 2-year deal, 1.2. Thank you, Houston, for picking up the other $2.8 million. Plus more on the NFL, the Monday night game last night that featured the Jameis Winston experience. It was in full glory on Monday Night Football.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, we are off and running. The Gary Sharp Show on a Tuesday. You're always welcome to join the party, join the conversation on the 42 Degree The Source by your mom's house hotline, 402-951-1620. You can email us into the Equitable Bank inbox, where Doug and the entire group, they take banking personally, professionally, and all the time. They take banking with you. Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Jimmy at 1620thezone.com.
That choke you up?
Yeah, we got a tweet to the show. Can't wait for the Gary Sharp and Garrett McGuire show premiering on Monday. Did I let the cat out of the bag? Oh man. Can we have Joey on?
I got a response to that, but it would be a giveaway.
Shout out Husker Crunk.
It would be a giveaway on the new co-host.
No, that's not fun. We got to keep them guessing.
Yeah. Garrett McGuire not going anywhere.
No, he meant Lincoln.
That the back and forth of, do we like Tony White or don't like Tony White? Garrett McGuire staying or not staying? And then when you find out that he's staying in a reduced capacity, which Sam will explain a little bit more. I think I know what they want to do with Garrett. Yeah. Yesterday was there was the good, the bad, and the ugly on old Husker Twitter.
And it ended with Jameis Winston. Pretty good day hey, a reminder, they do have a football game to play at the end of December at some point.
They do, but because of Minnesota, it seems like more and more likely New York City. Music City Bowl apparently is enamored with Minnesota.
Over Nebraska?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's okay. That's
Sounds
a conversation
like
in itself.
Insiders on draft night. This team is enamored with this player.
I know.
At the next pick.
I got some pushback yesterday, and I'm okay with it, saying that it would be a crap sandwich to go to the Pinstripe Bowl. But when you're 6-6, you can't. I mean, look. To be honest, if Nebraska was in the Music City Bowl at 6-6, that'd be a hell of a job of politicking to get Nebraska to Nashville. The Pinstripe Bowl is the 6-6 bowl. But I say it's a crap sandwich because I'm looking out for the fans.
Yeah.
I'm looking out for the average Joe and Jane that have saved up money for 8 years and they want to go. And all of a sudden, all they're going to be able to afford is one night, not even game tickets, not even an Uber, not even able to get onto the train to go to the Bronx, one night in a New York City hotel around Christmas.
Or an Airbnb that's 180 square feet.
Exactly. And unless you have the means, a little bougie. Most of your hotels in New York City, you have the bed, you have the window, you have the desk, you have the bathroom.
Yeah.
You're like, I didn't know what it was.
Square.
Look hey, this is a 4-star box that I'm staying in overnight.
But it's a clean box.
All right, off and running. Glad to have you in. When we come back, we'll talk about what Nebraska does next with the defense and why Tony White left to go to a state that has no state income tax.
And there it is.
It's the Gary Sharp Show. Peter and Jimmy joining me today on 1620 The Zone. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Tuesday. Peter, Jimmy, and Gary here for you on the Gary Sharp Show. Final week of the Gary Sharp Show. New morning show coming up on Monday, bright and early at 6:09.
After pregame show, national anthem, flyover, all that good stuff.
Yes.
I can't wait. People are going to like it.
I can't wait for you to find out that you're doing a warm-up show from 5 to 6. Why don't we have a warm-up show? We have...
Like a comedian goes out, you have somebody goes out for 20 minutes, gets them kind of lubed up.
No, see, this has been an idea that I've had because our lead-in, we've had a lot of different lead-ins to the morning show here. Remember, we used to be in the first version of Damon and myself. we were 7 to 11.
Oh, that's
and then we turned to 6A to 6P because they never really had a morning show. It was Chick and Nick, who were a morning show, but they started like at 8. And then, of course, the staple of unsportsmanlike conduct in the afternoon. So started a morning show. We went 7 to 11.
So who changed that? I like that.
I did as well. That was the guy that put up the shower curtain.
Oh, okay.
He's like, why are you guys doing 7 a.m.? People are, and I'm like, this is Omaha, man. Sometimes it's 6. There's not a lot of people out in the room. But then Clay Travis, when he was at Outkick, before Clay Travis blew up, he was our lead-in. And then we went, 6A to 6P.
Yeah.
And it's 2 Joes, 2 pros and a cup of Joe.
Yeah.
That is our lead-in. I've always proposed, why not having a live lead-in show? You could get here 4:30, do a little prep. You're on from 5 to 6. Somebody else with you, leads right into our show. You all for that?
Yeah. We
Get a good agent. Approach Steve. Say he got this good idea. If I can get some more money, I will do a warm-up show.
2
for
hoes
the
and
show.
a bro. We'll see if he goes for it.
Well, okay. So my marketing hat is going here. When it comes to this radio station, I love that we're 6A to 6P every day.
Mhm.
And then Jimmy and John, when the sports schedule allows,
As
we've
it
got
allows.
after hours. I would have called it game night.
I like that.
So, because we carry a lot of live sporting events on this radio station after 6,
Mhm.
and they could either be a lead into those games or a post.
Piggyback.
But, I like that we have, most nights we go 6 to 8. But I proposed, because I think we need more female representation on this radio station. I think we need more female voices that have microphones in front of them. And
They're generally nicer people.
And not everybody that, there's some very talented females that cover sports in the state, whether they be on TV or in the newspaper or on websites. Very few are on radio. And they're
just hint something.
not super comfortable. But I said, why don't we get a Saturday show, 2 chicks dishing?
Nice.
Let's get 2 ladies. They sit in here. They love sports. They probably know more sports than any of us.
Delicious dish.
And they just start riffing. They start giving takes on Tony White leaving.
Yeah.
Why Tony White is leaving. And why John Butler should not be the new defensive coordinator from a promotion within. I'm just using that hypothetically.
We're speaking through them. Speaking through our Saturday show.
Sam McKewon's going to join us in an hour. He's got thoughts. He was busy yesterday. It's kind of fun to see. It was one of those days that, you get, again, take the emotion out of it. You get fired up for it because you're reacting in real time. There's stuff going on. You're trying to connect the dots, make sense of all of this. But it started with Tony White leaving to go to Florida State. And there are 2 things as I watched yesterday unfold and what's going to happen before Nebraska plays in a bowl game and even after Nebraska plays in a bowl game that's going to shape 2025. The bottom line is there are guys that are going to leave that wore headsets or helmets off a team that just went 6-6. Do what you will with that. There are also going to be guys that are coming into the program that are being brought here to make sure that Nebraska does not go 6-6. At the end of the day, the guy that is in charge of Nebraska football is 11-13. He's 11-13 in 2 years. There are 2 things as I watched yesterday and kind of have been thinking about this because Tony White was approached by Florida State a couple of weeks ago. Now, if Tony White didn't want this to go any further, he would have shut it down.
Right.
That's very easy to have your agent say, my client is not interested. He's very happy where he's at.
Once rumors get out, there's some smoke there.
And
even if nothing happens.
And this has been murmuring, but once you are approached or your agent in this business is approached and then they tell you and you say, yeah, let's engage with them, your tentacles go up and you go, okay. But there are 2 things as I watched yesterday unfold that stick with me that are going to be the way that I kind of, I guess, form how I'm looking at changes. One, I want to go back to when Trev Alberts fired Scott Frost. One of the first things he said was, we're not going to try and win the press conference. When he was asked about what are the metrics, the parameters for his next head coach before any of us, and that was back in September of 2022, before any of us knew that Matt Rule was on the radar.
Including Matt Rule.
Yeah, Matt Rule was not on the radar at the time. He actually had a job. But he said, we're also not going to try and win press conferences. I think through 24 games, the most winning has been done on a video released after a win or in press conferences. Now, I've noticed a switch post UCLA. We're not sermonizing. We're not trying to win press conferences. We're trying to win football games. More on that, but think about that. That's a line that sticks with me as I look at changes and what has to happen in year 3, because there is a huge sense of urgency across the board, never to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other one that sticks out with me when I look at the Tony White situation and everything that unfolded this year, where Tony had to work with a brand new defensive back coach. We may not be able to fully grasp, Jimmy, the impact that Evan Cooper had.
Yeah. It had been suggested.
2 guys were in the circle of Matt Rule, Evan Cooper and Marcus Satterfield. And Rule, and good on him. This is his character. He's loyal to a fault. I don't fault anybody.
That's why coaches love him.
But sometimes you got to take the emotion out of it. You got to be business, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's a trait.
And you've seen it firsthand here.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But Matt Rule is really, really loyal. Again, loyal to a fault. Sometimes it gets in the way when you pick and choose favorites. But Evan Cooper was a guy that there was a great deal of respect. Probably was in line to be the next defensive coordinator at Nebraska. But he was good at his job. He was good at relationship building. And I think he was the buffer between Tony White's first-year defense and what was to happen and Matt Rule, where if Matt Rule didn't like something Nebraska was doing and thought they should change it up and be less attacking, you might have a guy like Coop that's like, no, we got it. This is what we can do. I don't think that's the right thing.
Trust me.
And then Rule goes back and he's like, okay, I trust you. So you had that eliminated in the offseason, and that's an Evan Cooper thing. That's not Matt Rule. That's not Tony White, but you got to make a change. And you bring in a guy that's brand new that really nobody has connections to, and you try and ingrain him on the defensive side of the ball with a good staff, where Rule, because he's a defensive guy, the hires that he's made on defense, thumbs up. Hires that he's made on offense until officially yesterday, thumbs down. Or a little, you shake the thumb. But Coop was the guy that was in between. So then you have injuries in the back end, and they gave up 23 passing touchdowns this year. It was not good. Guys were playing YOLO ball. Guys were going rogue. Hell, a guy at the beginning of the year that you talked about was going to be an NFL draft pick, you personally shut down. You said, hey, you know what? Get ready for the draft, because it looks like you're getting ready for the draft while you're wearing our uniform playing out there.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to bury you, but you know the drill. This is how it works. You're being shut down by us, even if you want to give it a go. But when it comes to Tony White and the defense, I go back to the 56-7 game at Indiana, Jimmy. And this is a line, and I brought this up on the show before, but then I thought about it yesterday a little bit more. Rule in his opening press conference said, I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't see this coming.
I remember that.
I thought we would play great. And they exploited a lot of things on us. We had some opportunities. We've been here a year and a half, and this was the first time it was like this.
Which we said here, hey, this was like a Scott Frost special or anything post-Bo, and you could even argue there's some Bo games that would be like that. So when he says, I didn't expect this, people are like, well, no blank. Us too. I mean, we're saying they weren't going to say, okay, it's going to be an easy win, but you're not expecting 56-7. Yeah. Otherwise, there's other questions that need to be asked beforehand. So, yeah, I remember that very well.
And then you remember the Tuesday when Tony White spoke after Indiana. I mean, it was like, I did this, I did this wrong, with a kind of mea culpa, but tried to explain everything that went wrong.
Uh-huh.
And when I heard Rule say that after the game, because he basically said that was Nebraska's Super Bowl. He built that up and then got beat by a good team, playoff team, but 56-7, come on, man.
Yeah.
So I've thought about that in trying to figure out why there's communication issues from the defensive play call to the back end and whatever is going on, and Rule taking more of an interest on defense. So what this takes me to is when you have Tony White leaving to go to Florida State, not necessarily a bad thing for both people, that you get a fresh start, whether it be with a voice, a body, or a philosophy. Is for 2 years, Nebraska defensively did enough while the offense was putrid that if you could have just scored another touchdown, you probably could have won more games. Across the board, against really good offenses that could scheme and get you to the edge, did Nebraska struggle? Yeah. And it may have been scheme, it may have been a couple of things. Might have been scheme, might have been dudes. But the defense did enough. I mean, the defense was much improved compared to when Tony White showed up. And they gave you a chance. Outside of a couple of games, Indiana, of course, Illinois, times where they couldn't get off the field, but I don't think they were helped by the defense. So Tony White, good defensive coordinator. Remember, off a 6-6 team. This isn't knock Tony. Right. I like Tony a lot.
We all liked him,
but
still do.
But just we got to put this. I want to frame this. So he leaves to go to Florida State, and the parallel move. Get to that in just a second. But it can be looked at as, you know what? Gave us 2 years, set a standard for defense, got younger guys on the field to mix with the older guys. But damn, we have some football PTSD in this program, and sometimes it's okay to have movement away. But thank you. Set a standard, got to live up to that standard. But there's something I want to do on defense that maybe you want to run a defense that you just don't have enough dudes, but you go to the southern part of the country where you can get those dudes. And I firmly believe that Tony White's defense will thrive at Florida State because the defense that he likes to play, he'll be able to get those dudes. There's more access to those dudes. Now, that's probably an appealing part of going to Florida State is no state income tax. I have dudes more at my ready. And then also, the other thing to know about Tony White is we know that Tony White wants to be a head coach. That was clear last year.
He sounds the part, too, when you listen to him speak.
But I think that there's only two places where Tony White wants to be a head coach. We're thinking, man, could that guy go to Purdue? Could that guy go to Colorado? Could that guy go to, I don't know, stay in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
There's two special states to Tony White. Florida, and then, of course, California.
Yeah.
Those are the two places that he wants to be as a head coach. He just took a job at a place that is in the state of Florida. Could he have found a path to a head coaching job for Nebraska? Certainly. And that was we'd already seen that.
Yeah.
But he wants to be in either Florida or California to have access to dudes that are easier than getting him into Lincoln, Nebraska.
And he's giving himself the best odds to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. So I totally get that.
And when you talk,
which is not a knock against Nebraska.
And when you talk to people of, when it becomes official yesterday, they had a meeting with the staff on Sunday just to let everybody know that this was happening. And then they had a regularly scheduled welcome back to campus. We're going to give you the timeline of when we're going to find out a bowl prep, all that kind of stuff. If you're going to the portal, got to talk to compliance, whatever. They had a regularly scheduled meeting yesterday, and they told the players. I mean, the players knew. Apparently, Tony reached out and told guys on his own that he has coached on defense.
No surprise there.
But I wonder if people were really surprised. If the part of this being surprised was Florida State for a DC job compared to, I'm not surprised he left.
Right. Those are two different conversations.
Mm-hmm. Because it felt, I don't know, there was just a different vibe all season with the defense. And
then when Phil Snow was brought in as a consultant or an analyst or whatever, did that do something? Like what effect did that have? Because it's the first thing I thought. Did it push him away? Did it send a message? Or is it as simple as, like you said, I want to be a head coach. this could, and then this sounds morbid, but it was all over Twitter about Gus. What happens if it doesn't work out for Norvell next year? His seat's going to be scalding to start the season. So if something happens, hey, either one of them, could they be an interim? And sometimes that can get you there. So one or the other.
Now,
or combo of both.
Now, what Rule does with that position, which I think is very attractive. I mean, you can use Nebraska. Dana Holgorsen is using Nebraska. Dana Holgorsen's. I don't know, the sentiment about him post Houston wasn't good. It was a failure at Houston.
Yeah.
But you can use Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska's going to use you. You can use Nebraska as kind of a rehab. I mean, Nebraska football is a rehab facility.
Yeah.
You come in here, you get right, you use Nebraska. If you have success at Nebraska, you're going to be able to go to where you want to go.
Which is not bad, because that means to go to where you wanted to go, you had to have success at Nebraska.
Just like the NFL draft.
Yeah.
People are like, nobody from Nebraska gets drafted. Well, NFL teams are attracted to teams that win.
Yeah.
You win, you might get drafted when you're thinking, who am I going to sign with as an undrafted free agent?
Well, they're talking about Tank Dell the other day, a couple weeks ago. That's just an example.
So
Dana's got dudes before.
So whatever, yes. So whatever path that Rule chooses internally, you can't miss on this. But I do have I do have faith, because he's been good with defensive hires.
Mm-hmm.
Offense, not in his wheelhouse. Defensive hires, in his wheelhouse. And
he'd probably tell you that.
And they have kind of, we got to figure out the disconnect between Butler and what happened on the back end. But for the most part, from Tony White to Terrence Knighton, who's still at the University of Nebraska as of 6:50 this morning, Rob Dvorak, who is an up-and-comer and probably has to be giddy about the linebacker room that he's going to have. They'll be young, but they could have some dudes in that room.
And he will look good as well.
Yeah, they've made good hires on the defensive side of the ball. But whatever they add to this staff, and I know coordinators don't recruit, the bottom line, whether it be on offense or defense, moving forward with spots that are open that you have to fill, that have full recruiting responsibilities, they got to find people that are closers, that we say dudes on the field. You got to have a dude in recruiting.
Yeah.
And then I also think, and this is important, and I've heard Tony White kind of speak about this, and Terrence Knighton even more so. Now, T. Knight, he loves himself the state of Florida. Okay, he loves being in Florida. He loves driving down the A1A with the top down when he's recruiting, and his hair is blowing
in December.
And he's got the big Mountain Dew sitting there in the console, and he's got
say the pub sub.
He's got Vanilla Ice on the radio, and he's looking to his left, and there's the Atlantic Ocean. He's like, man, I like this. I got to go find me some guys to come to Nebraska. Nebraska, this staff will tell you, yes, they want to hit homers in state and the bordering states. But for this program to make the jump where they want to be, they got to be good in the South. Yeah. And they got to have connections in the South. And that would be, as you look at names that are being thrown out there that could be possible additions, I would prefer to have guys that do have connections in the South that can go in and win some of those battles, because Nebraska has won some battles of late in the state of Florida, for example, to get the Miami crew here. Let's be honest. Should Ja'Cory Barney be playing at the University of Nebraska? So people down in the South in the state of Florida.
How do you let him get out?
How do you let him get away? So that
screw up was that?
That would be one of the things I would look at. Is I think Nebraska, any additions, offense or defense, they have to embrace and know that we're going to be strong in state. We're going to be strong in the borders, where Mosey is starting to kick ass in Kansas City. But for us to get to where we want to go and make the next leap, we got to be good in the South. South has been good to Nebraska, but we got to find people that know the South, that they can walk in and they go, "Hey, T. Knight, come sit in the chair.
Come meet my friend. Coaches at Nebraska is a great dude. I want to introduce you to someone." That's usually how it starts.
But it may, this could turn out to be okay for Rule.
Yeah,
where he gets a refresh. He had 2 years. You set a standard. Now you kind of have an idea of the Big Ten, of what defense you have to run to be successful. And maybe there's a philosophy change, which I think there probably will be. Yeah. So if this program, and I'm being honest here, if this program is built on oh my God, if you lose a defensive coordinator and maybe a really talented defensive line coach, if your program is going to crater because of that, your program wasn't good to start with.
Yeah, we have to have a different conversation. Much different. And that's not the case here. I never once thought that. Didn't think it yesterday when all this. I just thought more, all right, maybe a philosophy change. But knowing and seeing it firsthand what Rule did at Baylor as far as dudes, hey, that might be part of what Phil Snow is doing. Like, who do you think would be perfect for that? Well, I think so and so might be. Well, you know him. So and so knows him. So yeah, I think what you said, fresh start for everybody. Sometimes it's okay, because if it is that, we are having a different conversation. I don't think it's that at all.
But it puts you in a spot, though, you can't fan on this hire.
Yeah.
This hire has to be good because
No pressure.
You can't have a lot of misses. A roster of 105, you can't have a lot of misses. You can't have a miss on this. It appears that you have done well on the offensive side of the ball to hire your coordinator. Now you get a chance to hire your second coordinator. You can't miss on this to go where you want to go into year number 3.
Thankfully, the head coach, that's his forte.
That is. That's Jimmy. There's Peter. Peter got an update for you coming up here in just a little bit. Sam McKewon stops by at 7:30. Looking forward to that conversation. We'll converse with you all on the Gary Sharp Show as we roll till 10 on a Tuesday on 1620 The Zone.
Update Tuesday edition.
Peter!
Let's get to it. Some local news. Congratulations to Omaha Scots. Joe Collega has been named Mr. Football for the state of Nebraska by the Jet Award. Some stats that are rather mind-boggling. Class B record, 82 catches and 20 touchdowns this year. 11-man state record, 1,635 yards. And on the defensive side of the ball, 63 tackles, 6 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. And that's not all. He kicked the ball, too. 60 of 64 extra points and half good on field goals. Remarkable numbers. Congrats to Joe. We alluded to it a little bit earlier. The Jameis Winston experience on full display primetime last night. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and the 41-32 loss to Denver. I just saw this from Schefter this morning. First player in NFL history with 450-plus passing yards and multiple pick sixes in a single game. Congratulations to
Jameis.
And then Jerry Jeudy against his former team, a career best 235 and a touchdown. Did not get the win, but career best for Jeudy.
Is it that hard just to go back to the throwback uniforms permanent for the Broncos? Come on.
They did not do themselves favors by introducing these new uniforms and then
like
also
Arena
rolling
Elite.
out the throwbacks the same year. They did not help themselves there. NBA Cup group play wraps up tonight. TNT doubleheader, Magic, Knicks, and Warriors, Nuggets. By the end of the night, we'll know quarterfinalists. And the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 Big East challenges getting underway today.
Why did we flush the toilet there?
I didn't know it was the.
That's what you think of the ACC.
I guess we didn't know
SEC.
that. I guess we didn't know that was at the end there. I
People
haven't got
forget
to the
they
end
play
of the
basketball
bed.
in the SEC, except in Kentucky.
So it's challenge season, conference challenge season.
Tomorrow night, Huskers for Creighton will be
Yep.
at the CHI to root on Creighton against Kansas. Are you going to be unbearable tomorrow?
No. Now, if Kansas football was playing Creighton football, well, 1, I'd feel good about KU's chances, and 2, well, we'll see. We'll see what kind of mood I wake up in tomorrow. I don't know. Not that I've already
7:30 tomorrow night, stripe out at the CHI, a game full of stars, but only probably one NBA draft pick off of this year's NBA draft in Kalkbrenner.
I think it's gonna be a really good game.
Did we, Peter? We played this yesterday. No, we haven't played it with the KU Creighton spread because I asked Biggs about.
I thought
Michigan
about that
State.
too.
All right, KU Creighton spread when it is announced later this afternoon will be
KU. Man, I feel like it's a cop out. I'm gonna go 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'll go KU 8.5.
Yeah. They will get Creighton's best game because it means something to have Kansas coming here to play you. There will be no sleepiness about that arena or that team. And Kansas is used to that because they get everybody's best shot in their league or wherever they play. So it's going to be awesome. I'm glad these two coaches made this happen. And I hope it's something that continues going forward between the two programs because they're great programs. They'll all love basketball. It'll be a really good basketball game. And yeah, I just wish it was
COVID screwed us out of
That's right.
Creighton's trip to Allen Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
Played during COVID, limited crowd, maybe 1,500 at Allen Fieldhouse, and it was a great game.
on a Monday at 4:30.
Zagorowski's year? Yeah.
I remember that because I was reading the promos for that and on air because I was calling the game prior. I remember saying 4:30. I looked at Greg. I was like, "Is this correct? They play Monday at 4:30?" Then I thought this was my previous life, so I stayed up later. So to me, 4:30 wasn't like now. Like, all right, 4:30, let's go. We'll have an early dinner. I can still be in bed by 8. No, I was 4:30. I have to work.
So it blows me away that you go to bed by 8.
No, I just not. Last night was 9.
Oh, okay.
It's that time of the year.
Stayed up and watched The Neighborhood on CBS.
No, we got the first.
Starring Max Greenfield.
I got my fill of the Peyton Show and Belichick most Monday nights, and then we see who the guests are in the second half, and if it's going to do it for me. And then if my team's playing, then I will stay up because I'm a glutton for punishment.
I saw a Belichick Nebraska tweet yesterday, amongst the other tweets.
So they're switching to the 3-4. Got it. Bill's coming to run rules defense. Peterman broke news.
There is such a
I
list.
know things.
I would think we haven't We haven't gone 30 minutes without me getting a tweet about Jim Leonard, who, by the way, is on the defensive staff of an 8-5 NFL team.
Mm-hmm.
He's with the Denver Broncos.
Could he be here next Monday at 6 o'clock? Find out.
I don't think we pay that well. But we will be making T-shirts for Huskers for Creighton because Nebraska needs to cheer for Creighton. We need Creighton to rally to help Nebraska. As long as Nebraska helps Nebraska.
Is that opposite J-Skers, I guess, in this?
Yeah, it's kind of a, I don't know. I'm probably this isn't going to fly. People are like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. Keep an eye on something, though. So this stretch where, I mean, there are opportunities in the month of December for Creighton to rebound. Tomorrow night is a huge one with number 1 KU. Then you go to Tuscaloosa a week from this Saturday. Yeah. Keep an eye on this, and this is really unfortunate news. Alabama has played a hell of a non-con schedule. And Alabama is good. When Mark Sears is good, it appears that Alabama is good. They still can't stop the ball. Charlie Wrightsell Jr., former Omaha Central product, who's been at Alabama, went to the Final Four, has really balled out, suffered an injury out in Las Vegas. They don't know if it's an Achilles or not, and that would be awful. Great, dad, former Creighton guard, great kid. Great family, and he's played really well at Alabama, but he went down in Vegas, and I don't think officially they've announced what the injury is, but seeing it in real time, I thought, oh, that looks like an Achilles. So fingers crossed for him because he's a huge part of Alabama and making it back to the Final Four. But there are opportunities in the month of December for Creighton. But if you'd like a Huskers for Creighton t-shirt, we may be able to put that together. Yeah. Hand those out outside of the arena as you go in. Now, you got to promise you have to wear them.
Much of my experience is many Nebraska fans will be rooting for Kansas tomorrow night out of loyalty or habit. So this might be tough.
I think it'll be a great atmosphere in there. This is an opportunity for Creighton.
I love it. Good on Mac and Bill to do this.
Stripe out on TV always looks good.
Yeah, there's only 2 places, Peter. Kinnick Stadium and CHI.
Well, I wasn't going to mention.
Nebraska, by the way, has never tried to pull this off.
No, they haven't.
We've always had like these groundswell underground. Hey, let's wear black. Let's wear white. You know, people wear red. They wear white. They wear black. Later in the season, there's all kinds of different colors. It looks like you're out hunting because people are bundled up. Nebraska, has Nebraska in any sport tried something like this?
Not to my knowledge.
Because
you're right. When it is done well, it looks pretty cool. It looks really, really cool.
The Thunder would try it in the NBA, and they would have success with it, but it's more of a college deal.
Because they're one of the only teams that can convince people to wear the playoff shirts.
Yeah, most
franchises can't get.
I paid too much money for these tickets. I'm not putting on your shirt to cover.
Well, let's also be honest. Sometimes there's some medium on your seat. Okay, and when you're not a medium person and you put on a medium T-shirt, you got some hangover.
See. That's why in college, all the free shirts they'd give us at basketball games were usually extra large, which back then it's like, why am I swimming in this? Then you get older and you're like, good old reliable shirt from the 06 Kentucky game.
Isn't the go-to default free T-shirt giveaway should always be an extra large?
Yeah. Then just try to shrink as much as you can. But
you can shrink it, whatever.
Well, that shirt's going to shrink. You put that in the washer one time. And
people love an oversized shirt.
The number of diabetic medicine commercials, trust me, extra large. Nobody's going to wear a medium. Nobody's going to the concession stand and say, hey, how much for lettuce? Like, no. They're going to get something that's cheesy, it's beefy, and that's hopefully greasy. Give them an extra large shirt.
There you go.
I can't wait for this game.
One other KU note. On this date, 68 years ago, do you know what happened surrounding Kansas basketball?
Ooh.
Well, we're going to test your KU knowledge as a KU alum.
What year is this, 24?
1956, 68 years ago on this date, something happened.
We're in December. Did Wilt Chamberlain make his debut?
Wilt Chamberlain debut was on this date back in 1956. He casually scored 52 points.
Yeah.
First team All-American as a freshman. They'd go to the Final Four. They actually go to the final game.
The first of those 10,000 women, Lawrence, Kansas, possibly. I'll check Chris's media notes.
They lost 54-53 on this date to North Carolina in 3 overtime.
The damn Big Ten.
And now the 2024 KU team is one of the rare teams that have beaten both non-ACC teams that have beaten Duke and North Carolina in the same year when Duke and North Carolina are ranked.
How about that? When's that T-shirt coming out?
Print it.
Hey, Joe, Peter, thank you for mentioning who the winner of the Jet Award Mr. Football is, because I'm part of that committee. We have a very esteemed committee that votes on it with Mr. Severe. It is Damon, myself, Padilla, and Sauter. And we had this was a really good year for high school
That's a
football
good starting
talent.
five.
We had some good discussions.
group.
I enjoyed my Zoom time with the boys.
Zoom call.
We had some really good discussions. There were some talented players. Now this is given out to the top senior. Now there's some really good juniors. Connor Booth at Bishop Newman had an incredible season.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, he got dinged up in the semifinals. He played with a plethora of injuries in the final, and he had a great year. We had some really good discussions, like some reasoned discussions of the amount of talent that is around here. But I think, when Joe, if you go back to last Tuesday night when Scott won the state championship against Bennington, he was great on both sides of the ball. He had 14 catches in that game. He had 20 targets. You almost thought that he could have had more. But yeah, he had 82 receptions. Van Dyke could spin it, but Collega on both sides of the ball. He had 82 receptions. He set the 11-man record, 1,635 yards receiving, 20 touchdowns. Peter alluded to his
It's like Chris
60,
Carter.
his 63 tackles, and then he was the kicker. Yeah, I'm really proud of the choice that we made for the Jet Awards, Mr. Football, and he's.
I was going to say that's Mr. Football.
I don't know the young man, but Verse says he's a great kid. So congratulations to him.
Bright future.
And we had some really good finalists. This was a good year.
Pisons for life.
Hey, prepare yourself. Next year's recruiting class in this state could be monstrous. There's going to be some guys that blow up here in the next few months when they get more eyeballs on them before they get to the summer before their senior year. The 26 class could be big time in the state of Nebraska. All right, thanks for the update, Peter. Sam McKewon's coming up here in a little bit. When we return, just fire your names off me. Let's play pick a defensive coordinator. We have no idea what Rule wants to do. Will he stay internally? They have money at their disposal. Will he go to the NFL? Will he try and pluck a coach off another Big Ten staff? Will he find a guy that has a Big Ten pedigree? Is his guy already here? Will Rule become the defensive coordinator?
Whoa.
Let's just fire these off. Let's fire names. Let's discuss names on who should be the next defensive coordinator at Nebraska, not knowing what Rule is looking for. But what would it say if John Butler was promoted as an internal hire? With the optics, with the departure of Tony White and John Butler not being here a year, how would that look? How would that look? Think about that. Well, we'll get into that when we come back. Sam McKewon coming up bottom of the hour. Brian Christopherson and Andy Kendi as well. All part of the Gary Sharp Show with Jimmy, Peter, and Gary on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone is proud to team with the United States Marine Corps. Shout out John Schreiner and Toys for Tots for Stuff the Truck 2024. December 6th and 7th, that's Friday, Saturday. Could be in the 50s on Saturday, which for Stuff the Truck is usually about 30 degrees warmer. So, yeah, we're going to be out in Hawaiian shirts, getting a suntan. I might have to wear a hat. Stop by 1620 The Zone studio parking lot right here, 50th and Dodge. Stuff the Truck with you. Unwrap toys for area children. All donations support Toys for Tots. Can't make it to the event. Donations can be dropped off at our building during business hours, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 through Tuesday, December 10th. Sponsored by Woodhouse Chevy and Molina Healthcare of Nebraska. More details online, 1620thezone.com/stuff the truck.
Wow, that's that could be the highest temp ever for that event.
Yeah, surpassing the previous of 24.
1 year it was 7 degrees when we used to be over at 120th and Center.
And the wind was just howling. And
oh man, we're lucky enough the Marines come in uniform to help put the toys in the truck, and even those guys were cold.
And they get those warm coats because they were telling me a couple of years ago, like those are super warm coats. They're well prepared. They're like Bill's Mafia.
Well, guy still works here. He's on a FM station. He went and hooked us up with a ton of alcohol. He goes, "Hey, man, we got to have some hottie toddies. We got to stay warm."
Good gosh.
So we're all huddling around just doing shots.
Ooh.
No, I would not advise that. But that's one of the things you can look forward to. That's one of the things you look forward to when you stop by our Stuff the Truck event is that members of NRG Media may be doing shots with you.
Yeah.
And please partake.
Yeah.
Added incentive.
Your favorite people. It could be someone from Sweet. It could be Peter. It could be Joey. Ooh, shots with Joey.
Shots with Joey sounds fun.
Yeah, that'll be the new 5 to 6 show.
I think just the sniffing of alcohol would knock Joey out. I could be wrong. He could have a different life where he is just swinging. He's a hanging and a banging.
What is this?
But I'm going to say right now, probably not.
Fireball.
I think he's your nice looking guy that works at Hy-Vee that smiles at all the old ladies and they go, "Oh, Joey,
sweetie.
If I had a granddaughter."
In fact, I do. How old are you, young man?
Sam McKewon coming up here in a little bit.
6. Could you wait 12 years?
The Browns winning, or the Browns losing last night, the stat of the day, the Steelers for the 35th straight year will not finish in last place.
Congratulations. That's why Meg was in a good mood in the building. I got it.
Well, she's probably in a good mood because Russell Wilson may have changed the trajectory. He might be the multi-year fix for the Steelers at quarterback.
Comeback
Looked
player
pretty good.
of the year?
Looked pretty good in Cincinnati this weekend. But I might look pretty good going against that Bengal defense.
Yeah.
Well, they got the Cowboys this week.
Zach Taylor going to be available for Nebraska? I think Holgerson and just kidding. But so we don't know what Rule's going to do with his defensive coordinator job, or if by chance Terrence Knighton goes to Florida. Position coaches, that takes a little bit longer. But Terrence Knighton was working in Lincoln yesterday. But T. Knight loves himself some FLA. So you have to find a defensive coordinator. You may have to find a position coach. And we try and figure out where Rule would go. Now, everybody that he hired on his initial staff on defense had an NFL background, and it usually was attached to Rule, except for Tony White. Everybody was in Carolina or had a couple of stops in the NFL or actually played in the NFL. Nebraska has money, so that's not going to be an issue. If you're thinking, well, Nebraska's going to go, that's why, you know what? Why not look everywhere? Yesterday, Jimmy and I, we were talking about, I think it's important as you get into year 3 and understanding the Big Ten, do you have guys that understand the Big Ten? Ryan Walters is available, good defensive back coach. Don't know about DC, but he was the DC at Illinois that helped him get the Purdue job. There is, of course, Jim Leonard, who definitely has Big Ten experience.
Well, I was wondering if you were going to mention Jim Leonard. How about that?
Well, you try and connect the dots. And again, we don't know what Rule is thinking, what kind of defense they're going to run, what kind of a role Phil Snow will have moving forward. That's the dynamic of Tony White, Matt Rule, Phil Snow. Maybe we'll figure out what that whole dynamic was, and if Phil Snow was actually brought to Lincoln when they knew that Tony White was leaving, or wanted to figure out Tony White's going to be gone. Phil, give us an idea of the talent we have here, what you think we need, what kind of defense we have to run in the Big Ten, because you're going to get to see us play up close USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa.
And you said several weeks this had been going on. Florida State and Tony White.
This just didn't happen over the weekend. So you got a couple of guys internally. I think Rob Dvorak is a riser, and what he's done with his linebacker room, and he's got to be giddy about his linebacker room. Even though Butler and Bayor leave, he got some young studs, and he's got some guys coming. So that room is going to be fascinating, and he is a guy that is highly thought of on the staff. Of course, John Butler's desire is to be a defensive coordinator, whether it be in college or the NFL. He's only been here for a year. Defensive backs had a rough year. He, probably more so injuries, and he's not Evan Cooper. And for some reason, you couldn't get him and Tony White on the same page. Is that something that is on the table? And if it is, what does the optics say of, oh, I see back in July when you brought John Butler here, that was the plan all along. The plan all along was for Holgorsen to come here and he was going to stay. The plan all along was for Butler to come here. We don't know that. But what does the optics say? But I'm going to put out some names here, trying to connect the dots. Ideally, in this day and age of college football and the portal, it'd be nice to find a guy that could bring some guys with him.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about assistants.
No.
I'm talking about players. Because would it surprise anybody if a player or two ended up at Florida State?
Or if a couple of guys that Dana knows might end up at Nebraska.
Or if you have an opening on the offensive side, again, that you got to play the game. You know, Nebraska didn't get to play the game because you had a head coach that wasn't coming from current college football, so he couldn't bring guys with him.
Right.
Think about it. You go hire a guy, and he comes here, and all of a sudden he brings a couple of players. You're not going to say, oh, man, don't You're going to say, bring it on. That's how big boy football works. So I'll give you a couple of names that I think would be intriguing that I don't know any connection. I'm just trying to connect dots. Is Jeff Collins. So Jeff Collins has been the defensive coordinator of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. He took over. He is personally a really good friend of Matt Rule.
Has been a head coach.
He's in the friend zone, which do what you will with that. But he's a confidant. And when Rule left Temple, his friend took over at Temple. So there is a connection there between the former Georgia Tech coach. When he got fired, he went to North Carolina, was working on Mac Brown's staff. Now he's available. North Carolina was not great defensively, but there's a name. So
don't panic. These are names.
There's Elijah Robinson, who, was mentioned when Nebraska was first putting their staff together. At the time, he had become the interim head coach when Jimbo Fisher was gone. But a guy that is ingrained in the South, that is recruited in the South, that is a defensive line coach, who connections. Fran Brown goes to Syracuse. Elijah Robinson has a connection to Matt Rule from his days at Temple and at Baylor. All of a sudden, Elijah Robinson is now the associate head coach, DC, under Fran Brown. Keep that name out there. Then I'm going to give you another name that, again, we're doing this connecting of Matt Rule's past. What if I told you that there could be a guy that played for the Omaha Nighthawks that would be a name to throw into the hopper?
This is why I came to work today. I want to know where this is going.
Peter, you are Mr. Storm Chaser. Did you ever dabble in some Omaha Nighthawk football back in 2012?
That's right, Peter. You're a champion.
Really fun memories going to a few games at Rosenblatt. That was a blast when they were around. Garcia and Green.
Those be the guys.
Maurice Claret.
Oh.
Wasn't it Nelly singing that, doing the halftime show?
I remember hearing
at the championship game at Rosenblatt.
It was hot in there. Yeah.
So the 2012 Omaha Nighthawk roster, right?
This is you,
maybe
Peter.
not.
We'll see.
I wasn't here.
We'll see how much I know. Probably not.
Could you have a Longhorn and a former Omaha Nighthawk that could be a candidate for any open position on the defensive line? Does the name Frank Oakham ring a bell?
I remember Frank.
Oh, yes.
Defensive lineman, played at Texas, played in the NFL, played a couple of years with Houston.
National champion.
Seattle, Tampa Bay, finished his career with the Nighthawks. That was his last year in 2012. And then he decided that he wanted to get into coaching. Where did he end up? At Baylor, what did Rule do when he went to the NFL? He took Oakham with him. He was his defensive line coach. And then Oakham, after Oakham moved from Carolina, went to the Raiders, and he has been for the last 2 years the defensive line coach of Toledo. So he's gone back to college.
Okay.
He's a guy that has a connection to Rule, that Rule knows, that has an NFL background as well. So I'm going to throw that name out there.
That probably
for
knows some dudes.
Opening on the defensive line job.
I like this.
If that officially opens here sooner than later.
I see.
But again, we don't know exactly what he's looking for. May have an internal guy, may go outside, may want to go with somebody he's familiar with, somebody that shares the same philosophy. And that's a good question to ask tomorrow is what are you looking for? What kind of a defense would you like Nebraska to run? Because it was different. It was different from year 1 to year 2. Less attacking. I think there was a lot more faith put in the defensive backfield that did not come to fruition, and everything just didn't match up. So that's among the many questions tomorrow, because I have not seen it officially. But
signing day.
Signing day is tomorrow, which
day. That used to be the day.
It's going to be a pretty good day for Nebraska. I mean, that's a day not to dread, but a day to go, okay, I can see why him and him left, because that dude could come in and play right away. And they're going to need some guys that are going to commit tomorrow that need to get on the field sooner than later. But that's a good question to go, okay, you get to hit the refresh button with your defense. There's a standard there where, November outside of Iowa was a little choppy with the defense. Couldn't get off the field at certain times. Still gave up 25 to a bad offensive team in Wisconsin.
They got run on a little more.
But, your points per game, yards, top defense did enough to allow you to win. But what is your philosophy? What are you looking for? What kind of defense do you want to run? Which it matches your philosophy, the philosophy of a DC, and then the talent you have on the roster. I think that's a great question tomorrow.
And you got to think that there's going to be a change in the defense that he wants to run. And I hate doing this because we talked about this. I want to go back and see what they were playing. What were they doing at Baylor? And the only reason I say that is because some of the dudes they got at Baylor, look, at Nebraska, they can get those dudes. So what does Rule want to do? Is there any similarities? Even though it was a different conference and it was a different time. 5 years ago was basically 20 years ago in the way things are. But in the Big Ten, what can help you be successful? And it's not just the Big Ten as we know it. It's, you've said this before, the Big Ten as a whole as it's going. See what Oregon's doing. Any of the new teams that are coming in here and starting to open the league up a little more.
You think it would be Matt Rule's defense, or he would
turn it over?
I mean,
like with the offense in Dana, like, hey, you come run the defense.
That's part of the being a CEO.
CEO
and
rule.
Don't meddle. You hire coordinators for a reason and let them coordinate the offense and the defense. Would it be a Matt Rule defense or the philosophy of the person that now is in the defensive power chair?
Yeah.
And you say, that aligns. Go do what you got to do.
For example, hypothetical, they hired Jim Leonard. If they did that, then you're turning over the defense like, hey, this dude's done it. We're going to let him do it. Let him cook.
That would have make a statement, don't you think? If you plucked, I mean, Jim Leonard is really, really good. But what is Jim Leonard looking for?
Yeah.
I mean, has he fallen in love with the NFL?
Sometimes they do.
I mean, it's not like he's an analyst. He is their defensive back coach, and they're going to be in the postseason. So now you're looking to the middle of January. Not like he's going to be out there recruiting, and you could recruit to him, letting recruits know or portal guys know that, hey, that's the defensive guy that we have. So you can overcome things like that. But what would it say if you pluck somebody from a fellow Big Ten staff, or again, get a guy that brings guys? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You got to play the game.
Because if you're not, your opponent is. They're going to get the guys you want.
You don't think people look at Nebraska and, hey, if I hire this guy, maybe he'll bring that guy. Maybe he'll bring that big rush end that's got long arms. That is Mr. Sackman.
Give him a little bit of cash, and they have the means to do it.
Got to play the game. This is big boy football, man. You can't be going, that's not how it works. It's pristine.
It's what you signed up for.
No, it's down, it's gritty, it's dirty, and you got to find out all of the ways to help you be successful to construct a roster with headsets and helmets. Mm-hmm. All right, Sam McKewon. He was busy yesterday. He's got thoughts. He'll join us next. Brian Christopherson and Andy Kendi a little bit later as well on the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, busy day yesterday. Welcome to the new world of the offseason of college football. Sam McKewon of the World Herald was right on top of all of that. Good out of you yesterday. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Was yesterday a crazy day, or is that the new norm?
Maybe a slightly more than the new norm, and probably a little short of crazy. But it was a crazy day, I think, around here, just because of the confluence of events, which I think we're going to happen that way. But you're going to see stuff like this now going forward. Coaches are going to leave places right away. It used to be the coordinators would leave a month after. They'd coordinate the defense, and then before signing day, they always kind of stick in place until February, but that doesn't happen anymore. So, I think people need to get used to coaches and players moving around the week after the season ends. And if you're in a Big Ten championship, it happens after that. If you're in a playoff, it happens after that. But everything else is going to be kind of like this. People need to get used to it.
Is Tony leaving to go be the Florida State defensive coordinator? Can you look at it as a good thing for both sides, or is there more to you think his decision to leave?
Well, I think that for Tony White, there's probably reasons why it makes sense, for his career. I understand that Florida State's, got a coach, I guess, it's on the hot seat, but Tony White's defense in year 1 and year 2 at Nebraska was a top 20 defense, and it's a little bit smoke and mirrors this year. And I wrote something that'll come out around 8 a.m. that kind of explains how that is, and they only faced 58 plays a game this year, which is very low. 2 years ago in 2022, they faced 75. And so, Tony White's defense this year was giving up 5.39 yards per play. And 2 years ago, the defense that got Eric Chenander fired was giving up 5.48. And that's not that different. And so, I think there was going to be, some reality for him that his year 3 wasn't probably going to be as good as his year 2 based on the players they were going to have to replace. And so now he gets to go be a turnaround artist at Florida State and have a third school on his resume where he does that. I think for Nebraska, Nebraska wanted Tony White to stay. And so they were willing to see him stay. I think they have options, and I think they can, they can replace him. But I think all things being equal, I think they wanted him to stay and would have loved to have him for year 3. And we'll see if Terrence Knighton, what he does. Does he stay at Nebraska? Does he go to Florida State? Does he pursue another option? I can tell you that Terrence Knighton was never going to be here for 10 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's going to probably end up in the NFL one day. And so some of these situations we're going to pan out one way or the other on the defensive side of the ball. And hey, there's a coordinator job open, and if John Butler gets it, well, then he's your coordinator. If he doesn't get it, I don't know what he's going to do. So this is just the nature of the business that Nebraska's in now. And you're not going to have the continuity you had even 15 years ago. That's just the way it works.
Sam, there are two school of thoughts here that I kind of wonder myself about. When Rule brought in Phil Snow, obviously at first you're thinking, well, yeah, to evaluate what needs to be done on defense. But something I just kind of thought in the conversation that Gary and I were having earlier, was it possible that part of the reason, in addition to that Phil Snow was brought in, was to kind of give Rule some pointers because they knew that maybe this was in the works, and what would be the route to go post Tony White if they say hypothetically, if he ends up taking this Florida State position, which he ends up doing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that Phil Snow might have a fresh set of eyes on, and maybe they're bringing him in to tinker and to evaluate which players. I think that's also part of it, is the player evaluation piece. Like, okay, very soon there's going to be guys leaving. We're going to have pressure applied to us as it relates to financial, NIL, things like this. We have to decide who we say yes or no to. And so I think Snow can probably provide some player evaluation. He's been around a very long time. But there isn't really anything that Matt Rule needs pointers on as it relates to defense. Matt Rule knows defense really well. And I think Phil Snow knows Matt Rule. And so I think there's probably an eye-to-eye perspective between the two of them. And so I think there's probably some of those things in play when you think about it. And again, I think all things considered equal, they wanted Tony White to stay. But let's remember that Matt Rule hired Tony White, and he hired him, I think, with the desire to incorporate some of what Tony White was doing at Syracuse and at the other places he was at Nebraska. So now having that in the toolbox and understanding how the split safety system works and the 3-3-5 works, can Nebraska leverage it to its advantage going forward? I think so. And so, I think they're going to be okay on that side of the ball. That was probably always going to be the case no matter who the coordinator was. Although I think Tony White was a little bit better than most.
How much of a relief, and it almost felt like Holgorsen wasn't coming here just to hang out at the Embassy Suites for a month, get some gear, call ball for 3 games, that there had to be a general sense that we're going to make this at least a 1-year commitment. It turns into 2 on the contract yesterday, but how important do you think that is, not only to the offense, but most importantly, Matt Rule, off the basis of we're on the same page here, Sam. Matt Rule's hires on defense have been good. Offense, not so much. Now you have a veteran guy that may get to pick and choose who he works with.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Holgorsen is a crucial piece of what they're doing going forward, both for retention of quarterbacks and recruiting quarterbacks and getting receivers and linemen and all those things. I think Donovan Raiola is important too. I think there's a pretty good relationship that needs to set up there, and they need to keep Donnie in the program. Those are probably your 2 most important positions. And then, if Glenn Thomas wants to stick around, I think they're comfortable with that. I think they're comfortable with Marcus Satterfield sticking around. I think McGuire's probably going to be in an adjusted role in it. We'll see with EJ Barthel. I'm sure he has connections back east if that's where he really wants to go. But I thought the last month of the running back play was a cut above anything they had done up to that point in recent Nebraska history. And I guess I'm going back to 22 as well. Because I thought Anthony Grant was a way more talented back than he showed in 22. So I felt like Barthel coached Johnson and Dowdell up and got those guys to a place where you can feel comfortable with bringing them back as a 1-2 punch and then maybe adding Jamarian Parker. I don't know if you need a transfer back, which I think is good news for them. And so, I think they can retain a lot of the staff, and I think Holgorsen will come in and sort of reshape the vision. He called a hell of a game at Iowa. He did. I mean, he had Nebraska in position to make plays against Iowa's very sound defense, and he gave Nebraska 3 opportunities at shots. Dylan Raiola missed one of them to Jalen Royd. Poor protection on the one with Heinrich Harburg, and then Nayor just didn't catch the pass. But man, he gave him a chance. He gave him chances at shot plays that win that game, and that's all a coordinator can do, is put you in position to make those plays, and Nebraska didn't make them. But I thought he called a terrific game at Iowa, and even though they only scored 10 points.
Do you see Dana being here the full 2 years of his contract, meaning not in a negative, but just that could he have enough success next year? I guess the first question to ask is, what's his goals? Is he wanting to be the head man somewhere one day, or like some of the coaches that are getting out, like Chip Kelly, like Gus Malzahn, where he really just likes calling ball? Do you see him staying the full 2 years if that's the case?
I do. Yeah, I don't know that I think the guy really wants to get back into head coaching, because to get back into head coaching right now is a very specific kind of job. And I was just texting with somebody about Ryan Day at Ohio State, and I said, you can get rid of the guy, but there are very few people that really want to do this specific job. And Mike Vrabel doesn't want to come and do this job. This job is hard. They're paid very well, but it's very challenging to balance boosters and collectives and players' parents who want money and the players and the recruiting and all that stuff. That's a very difficult job. It's a harder job than the NFL head coaching job. And so, you have to really want to do it. And yeah, it comes with more money. It does. But you're not going to enjoy that money very much. You're going to have to sock it away, and in 10 years, you can enjoy it. And it also comes with a high risk of failure. And, Ryan Day's a failure, quote unquote, for losing 2 games a year or 1 game a year. And, anywhere that Dana Holgorsen goes, it's going to be, well, hey, are you going to win 8 or 9 for us? Because there's there's this money manager over here, or there's this, guy that's in finance and he wants to win and go to a bowl. That's exactly what happened to him in Houston. And, so I think he probably doesn't necessarily want to be in that world anymore. I mean, I don't think West Virginia should have fired its head coach. And I'm sure he's looking at that and going, you see, like, that's why I left there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, West Virginia's going to go hire a guy that's never been a head coach. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, so, it's just a hard job to be in now. And I don't know how long coaches are going to be able to withstand it. I really don't. Nick Saban got out.
Nope.
He was done with it. And so I think a lot of these, I don't think Holgerson's going to go back to it right away. Or if he does, it's going to have to be in Texas, or it's going to have to be a very specific context.
Yeah, man, the landscape has changed. I even worry about guys like Gundy off a year like this because the things are changing. You were the first to report because it was mentioned that Garrett McGuire is out. Garrett McGuire is staying, as you were the first to report, in an adjusted role. On or off the
stay on, yeah.
On or off the field?
Well,
it
hardly like at this point you can have as many assistants as you want.
True. I should have phrased it better. Yes.
Yeah, like I don't. I think that the better question is on or off the recruiting trail.
Yes.
Because you can only have 10 out there. I think you will see somebody come in and recruit that position. So, and we'll just have to see what Holgerson's piece of it is. I think Garrett McGuire is going to be a play caller one day. That would be my read of it. And I think that's where he is a whiz kind of guy. And he was a quarterback in college. He wasn't a receiver. And so I think, coordinator is maybe the role for him going forward, or, not the offensive coordinator at Nebraska, but sort of that track, of being an analyst or whatever you want to call it. It won't be an analyst because you can call everybody an assistant. So I'm not exactly sure what the adjusted role is. And of course, if he really wants to go somewhere else, there's going to be opportunities for him to go coach a position or do something somewhere else. And you really have to decide as a coach, like, okay, what is my track going to be? And if I want to be, do I want to be a coordinator one day and then move that to head coaching? Or do I want to be an elite position coach who lives in this recruiting world, like Larry Johnson at Ohio State, or Terrence Knighton? I don't know that Terrence Knighton will ever be a head coach. He might be. But, I think Terrence Knighton's a pretty darn good position coach who, if he wants to stay in college, can probably recruit his position really well. So I think you have to decide kind of where you want to go with that. But so much of position coaching is, really getting the players to do what you want them to do. And I thought Barthel did a nice job the last month with Johnson and Dowdell and winnowing that thing down. And Ramir Johnson obviously was banged up, but we'll see. We'll see. I think there's a lot of dominoes to still fall as to who's going to be where. Is Satterfield going to stay on? Does he want to go and go back to South Carolina or in that area? Like, there's a whole bunch of questions. I'm just saying that the idea that he was fired and just sort of cast out goodbye was not. That's not it.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I think McGuire will stay.
Yeah, I don't think Rule would do that to Joey's son.
No.
Yeah.
Sam, people forget there is a football game, I believe, that Nebraska is going to play at some point, possibly later this month. Do you have any idea where you might be headed? Are you going to have to pack warm, or can you take a lighter bag because it's warmer?
I think Nebraska is going to end up in New York City if I had to play a hunch. But, and here's the caveat, Michigan should go there. And see, here's the thing. Michigan was probably going there if they had lost to Ohio State.
Yep.
Now, Michigan might go to the ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa. If they don't go there, and the ReliaQuest says, we want Iowa again or whatever, then I could see Michigan going to the Pinstripe or the Music City. We'll just see. If Michigan goes to the ReliaQuest Bowl, then it kind of comes down to whether the Music City really gets to make its choice. Because if they get to make their choice, they're going to pick Nebraska. They're not going to pick Iowa. They're not going to pick Minnesota. They're going to pick Nebraska. And then the Pinstripe can do whatever, the heck it wants to do. Whoever that would be, I don't know. And there's a possibility that Iowa could go do a different bowl game, just outside of the structure. And I've seen that somewhere where they're in the first responder game in Dallas or whatever. at this point, what's important is it's no longer like this team deserves to be here and here's the pecking order and all these other things. They're trying to make marriages between fan bases and bowl games and trying to make the bowl games whole. And so I think the Pinstripe Bowl in Michigan actually makes a lot of sense because I think Michigan would be in a great slot TV wise. And honestly, that's where they belong. I don't think you want to see Michigan play. I don't even know, LSU or something. I don't think you want that. I think Michigan would be well suited there, but Sharon Moore may say, no, my kids want to go to Florida. And there you go. Like it's a messy deal. And I think Nebraska could end up in the Pinstripe playing Pittsburgh, Boston College.
And at 11 a.m. local time.
Louisville.
At Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's not the worst. I mean, playing an ACC team is not a bad thing. You can do that. I mean, Pittsburgh's an interesting program, and Louisville just kind of, that's just a shootout.
Yep.
And then Boston College could do a little bit of both.
Yep.
They can play both ways.
Bill O'Brien. There we go. It comes full circle. Sam, great stuff yesterday.
And Bill O'Brien, they know each other. So,
yeah. Hey, great stuff yesterday by you and your colleagues. And I know with Financial Agreement Day tomorrow and much more in the portal opening next week, you guys will be on top of it. As always, I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
That's Sam McKewon. Somebody that would be elated to have the Pinstripe Bowl in Nebraska, the execs over at KTV, because that is ABC 11 a.m. Saturday,
I
December
can hear
28th.
Andy right now. Come on, an early game, daytime programming. Hell, overreaction will be done before it's dark.
Huh.
Okay.
He ironically will join us coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. It's the Gary Sharp Show with Jimmy and Peter on 1620 The Zone. All right, halftime is over. The band is off the field. They've dotted the I. Ryan Day is still looking perplexed. That is so. There's video that has been shared on Saturday of Ryan Day just kind of like dumbfounded, staring as the melee was happening and players are running by him, and then he is on camera as saying to a player, "What happened?" I mean, just
were they not praying at midfield? The prayers are here.
That game mentally is so deep into Ryan Day. It's
John Cooper 2.0.
Well,
at least to Ohio State. Both damn good football coaches.
Does that automatically
that one game?
Does that automatically solidify that the game between Michigan and Ohio State is the greatest rivalry in the history of college football? That by losing that game for the fourth straight year, you are so messed up mentally?
Yeah. People used to say about Mac Brown in Oklahoma. He could not. It was just in Texas's head that they were never going to beat Bob Stoops, and then Vince Young happened, and then it kind of just went back and forth after that. But they always said games like that end up getting you fired. Well, Ohio State, Michigan literally ends up that. That happened to John Cooper. Mm-hmm. People think, man, that John Cooper is probably 5-6, 6-5. No, they won a lot. They had dude after dude after dude, but they couldn't beat Michigan. I said last week, the 96 game, and watching this last Saturday, I thought, it's the 96 game all over again. Even got a sunny, cold day.
The television numbers, I think, come out today for Michigan, Ohio State. As you would imagine, they'll be monstrous.
Joel Klatt will tell you.
Well, I mean, Fox, hey, that is Fox's number one pick in the draft every year.
As it should.
There was a stat, I think 2 years ago, that Fox nets like $12 million in ad revenue off that one game. Not the whole package of the season, but one game having Michigan, Ohio State on. That will always be their number one pick.
And the other networks in the league's package know it. So they start thinking, okay, NBC, they want an Ohio State-Oregon game. CBS ends up wanting a game of their own to stick on. But you're not getting Ohio State, Michigan.
Watch tonight where Ohio State ends up in the latest bracket reveal. I don't want rematches, okay? I don't want to see Indiana, Ohio State playing again. I don't want to see Georgia and Tennessee. I thought we were going to avoid that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, like ESPN has multiple brackets where that is the 8-9, 7-10 game.
Come on. Really? I want a South team going north.
But Michigan, Ohio State will always do big numbers. I mean, Ohio State does big numbers, period. Speaking of television, Big Ten ever going to release the schedule for the 2025 conference season?
Yeah, I thought they were going to do this before Thanksgiving.
We're now into December. I wonder if they are, like your opponents are already set.
Right. It's just when.
When are you playing them? I mean, like for Nebraska, at the end of the year, you're going to play Wisconsin and Iowa. When is the Penn State game going to be in there? When is Michigan going to be in there? But will the Big Ten do the schedule based on TV offerings? So we give at least 3 games a week that are good TV offerings off of what we saw in the first year.
And I bet that's what will happen.
And then I hope we have a schedule release show on the Big Ten Network that I would be more than willing to host.
Please.
But that's got to be coming here soon.
And they
people got to get married. They got to have kids. They got to know when games are being played, when your bye week is in the conference,
when to go or not go to the pumpkin patch.
True. And they took a long time to release the basketball schedule this year too. Something's going on. They're just taking their sweet time.
But the college football playoff will be revealed tonight.
Overreact accordingly.
Well, this is a key one because where will SMU be ranked compared to like Alabama? I get confused on the rankings. I just want to see the bracket. Okay, I want to see the bracket, which the bracket might show you tonight that Boise State and SMU have a bye, and people will lose their mind, and then maybe those 2 rematches. But Alabama, what are they going to do with Alabama? Because essentially, to me, it comes down to Alabama versus Miami, SMU, and the ACC.
Gee, I wonder who ESPN will select out of that.
Well, we used to have.
It's a business.
Like I miss the campaigning for bowl games.
Yes,
I miss the athletic directors openly talking about where they want to go.
Mac Brown campaigning for the Rose Bowl. It's great TV.
We need more of that, and you're going to get just hammered with that over the next 2 weeks.
That's like, did you get your Colorado mailer the other day for Heisman voting? Yeah.
Yes, I did.
It'd be a nice souvenir.
It It did not include Deion Sanders running away from his ex-wife on senior day as quickly as he did. That might be the best move that Deion Sanders has made all year.
Yeah.
His ex-wife was there when his two sons were having senior day.
Yeah.
He pivoted quickly away from her. That must not have been a good breakup.
That's almost as bad as Travis Hunter getting in trouble right after the game. It's like, what did he do? Did you not just watch the game? He was awesome.
But back to the playoff reveal tonight. I looked at this on the break. So FanDuel has odds on Alabama making the playoff.
Love it.
Their odds have gone really well. So yes, minus 192, no, plus 148. Vegas doesn't just lose money.
Right.
So
they're professionals for a reason.
Alabama's probably sitting pretty well. The quality wins over the quality losses. So that is going to be revealed tonight. Big Ten is solid with 4. But will Ohio State, what happened on Saturday in Columbus cost Ohio State a home playoff game?
It should, but I don't think it will.
I think probably Indiana, Ohio State 7-10.
In Columbus.
Remember Georgia fell from 3 to 12.
Yeah.
What happens to Ohio State?
It'd be 1-10.
And then also off of what you saw on Sunday night in Buffalo, just prepare yourself. We're going to have games in South Bend.
We're going to have
We're people in State College.
They need to move this to Indianapolis.
We're going to have Arizona State playing at Penn State in the middle of December when there could be snow flying, and it'll just be gorgeous. And we'll be so glad that we're not there in the crowd watching it. We're watching it from the comforts of our 72-degree man cave.
You know what you're doing. The way this fall's been, except for this past week and a half, it's going to be 63 and sunny. But are you kidding me? The referees are wearing short sleeve in State College. Is this what global warming has done? Arizona State will be, it's a December night in Tempe.
National Coach of the Year, Cignetti by a hair over Dillingham.
Yeah. Dillingham, that's a dude. You saw what he did. He gave his bonus to 10 of his off-the-field staffers. He gets it. Will he be mentioned for jobs in the SEC and the Big Ten because he is a damn good coach, but he's a Sun Devil, and they pay him well, and you have maybe an easier path to the playoff out of his league, despite the controversies that's been going on with the Big 12 and SMU and Boise State. And at the end of the day, it's, if you don't like it, win more.
What is he, 33?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's doing all right for himself.
Oklahoma just hired an offensive coordinator from Washington State who will probably bring their quarterback. He's 29.
He'll be the next hot commodity in coaching if he turns that thing around. It will happen quickly, too.
It will.
And better, Venables going to be looking for something.
One quick thing back to Sam said about the bowl game. And it's trending towards the Pinstripe Bowl. It's December 28th. It's 11 a.m. Central. The game is on ABC. It's in the Bronx. When you're 6-6, that's what you get, even though it's a crap sandwich to go play in New York City.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to be honest about where Nebraska would attract the most fans, like an overwhelming amount of fans, isn't Nashville. It's probably Phoenix.
I was going to say Phoenix.
Yeah.
Look at all of the snowbirds from here that are in Phoenix, or people that just go down there on vacation, or it's a lot easier to get from Omaha to Phoenix. There are more direct flights.
We did it last year. Direct flight.
If Nebraska was in that bowl, and it's right after Christmas, it's on the 26th.
4:30 game in the afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it. And you know this.
Played in a baseball stadium. So what we're going to learn here is Nebraska's probably going to play in a baseball stadium. When you go 6-6, you get to play in a baseball stadium while you're playing football.
Yeah. One with a roof closed, one with it open, but not where you think.
But the bowl game in Phoenix, I think, would draw more than Nashville, just because of the former natives that live there, the large following of Nebraska fans and alums that live in the Phoenix area in the entire state of Arizona. You get your Californians, you get your people from Nevada,
Y'all had
the
an
Four
affiliate
Corners.
in Phoenix, right? When you were on the network, Phoenix would air Husker games. So.
There was a group in Phoenix that would buy time.
Yeah. I remember hearing about that in Seattle as well. So, yeah, I did think that too.
That bowl is really not in play for Nebraska, and that's okay.
Kind of too, yeah. First-class people, but I get that.
We need more campaigning to go to bowls by ADs.
I miss it.
We need Rule to go, you know what? It's cold in New York City. I love Nashville. I'm a big country music fan. You guys realize that when...
My friend Haley lives there. She has a podcast that I've been on. She's great.
You guys realize when Morgan Wallen was here, I was in the front row? When Jelly Roll was here, We had to break down Iowa film. I couldn't get to the show.
They're all there.
All right. Brian Christopherson coming up at 9. But first here is Rodney. Good morning, Rodney. Rodney?
Oh, Rodney.
You know what?
So
So Rodney periodically calls. He's got some commitments this time in the morning.
Mhm.
That's the second straight time when Rodney has called. Something has happened with the phones.
Oh.
We apologize, Rodney. Please call back, or maybe we can call you.
Yeah. I haven't heard from him in a while, so
couple of emails here.
I got one about Jim Leonard.
Jim Leonard is extremely popular and is extremely talented.
He knows how to be a DC.
Chris says about Sam's interview, did you say Satterfield and McGuire will probably be retained? I just spit coffee all over my computer screen, and I'm just angry again. I don't think Satterfield's staying. So Satterfield's contract is up. I think there's a desire to go back to South Carolina, which is perfectly fine.
Somebody get him another coffee, please.
Garrett McGuire's role will be a little bit different. There was at one point, I thought in my head, Holgorsen will coach wide receivers, but it'll be like an inside-outside thing. You do have to find a spot so he can recruit full-time to Jamar Mosey, whose son is going to commit tomorrow, who going to be a really good player out of Kansas City. And the Moseys have done work in Kansas City, but having him as a full-time recruiter where it's not just Kansas City, I think would be very beneficial. He has a wide receiver background, a running back background. I wonder if there's a spot for him. But we'll say this about McGuire. And I think he got kind of run over by veteran wide receivers. And Nebraska is going to have to add a couple of veteran wide receivers to go with a young group of talented wide receivers that need to take a step up, whether they just arrived or they've been here for a little bit. Rule has always talked highly, and anybody that has listened to McGuire speak, they do speak highly of his football IQ and his knowledge, but probably he was put in a position to be a full-time coach for the first time at that age too soon. At a position where one thing Sam was saying is he was not a wide receiver coach. And then you had injuries and you had personalities and he wasn't able to control them. And then I think people just stopped listening to him.
And now you have a problem.
But you're great friends with his dad, who's the head coach at Texas Tech. You're not going to fire his kid.
No, because Joey knows everybody.
Because Rule is loyal to a fault and he has this professional courtesy, and that's just the way he is. I use that when you're thinking about how he's going to handle the Ed Foley situation with special teams moving forward. I don't know. He fires guys. He just kind of, you look at each other and you go, yeah,
I'm sorry, man.
This just isn't working. Let me go help you find a job. Or maybe you just kind of drift away and we don't really say anything and we take the attention off you leaving because I make a quick hire.
Then you're working at an Omaha radio station, co-hosting a morning show. Yeah, I got you. No Sharp and Ed?
Now, the one thing I will say about McGuire, and I think it's been an indictment of Brian Ferentz West the last 3 weeks, is I think position, it's not just the Emmett Johnsons of the world that have responded differently with Dana Holgorsen here. You could make a case that some position coaches have responded differently. That why all of a sudden are there wide receivers blocking? Why all of a sudden are the running backs finding holes? Why all of a sudden is guys are staying with their blocks on the offensive line? Guys are executing their assignments. Is that because you have a strong voice who has respect in that position that is the OC, and all of a sudden guys are like, ding, 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 this is what I needed, or they think they're coaching for their job.
Yeah.
OCs make a big difference because they set the tone, and Rule let Satterfield set the tone. Now you have a guy comes in and he's completely different personality, and he is a live wire and he is a DGAF, and he's like, we're going to do this, this, and this. I see this. You got to fix this, this, this. And guys are like, yeah, coach, I got it. Boom, boom, boom.
Will I be one of his guys or not?
All right, quick break, come back. More on Dana Holgorsen, because with his official addition, what does that do for the offense? What does that do for his staff? What is he looking for as he has holes on his staff that he will fill And then ultimately, what does it mean for Nebraska offensively moving forward? 2-year deal, $1.2 million. Houston is paying $2.8. How relieved were people yesterday when they saw that Venables hired an offensive coordinator?
Yeah. That's actually the first thing I thought when I saw that. I was like, all right, cross that off the list.
I think the Holgerson deal was done last week. I think that's when it was finalized. But
until
the OU job was out there, and they hired a 29-year-old guy.
Everybody wants the next McVay. Everybody wants the next Dan Lanning. Everybody wants the next Kenny Dillingham. And this might be the guy.
Caleb, stay right there. We'll get to your call more. We'll get some more emails as well. They do not include people spitting out their coffee all over their computer screen. We hope you do not do that. That would be unfortunate for your computer screen. It's the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone. So, with everything going on yesterday, welcome back into the Gary Sharp Show. Jimmy and Peter, I was watching a little bit of Kevin Warren. You remember Kevin Warren?
I remember him. I remember him from COVID, the real story.
So the Bears had their press conference
The original.
yesterday to talk about Eberflus, and Kevin Warren to say, yeah, Ryan Poles will be the point man, but there was a lot of Kevin Warren. Less Ryan Poles speaking, more Kevin Warren. And as I listen to what they're going to do, and he says it's the most coveted job in the NFL. You're Bill Belichick. You have 2 job offers, Chicago or Cincinnati. Now, you know what the ownership is in both cities. You have what would be a second-year quarterback, and then you have Joe Burrow. What would you take? If you were Bill Belichick, remember, Kevin Warren says the Bears' job is the most coveted in the NFL in the offseason. There could be 10 jobs open.
Everybody's applying for it. We're applying for it.
Bengals' job, unfortunately for Zach Taylor, will be open.
Yeah.
Should have got rid of their defensive coordinator a long time ago.
Remember when that guy's name was hot for coaching? Yeah, that's why sometimes you should take it. Take your payday.
Cincinnati or Chicago if you're Bill Belichick?
The Cincinnati Bengals. I think that's an easy choice because you have a certified dude already at quarterback.
Yeah,
You got offensive
I think that's
dudes.
what it comes down to.
They just need that, like in the NBA when Phil Jackson would go to a place. It's kind of similar to that. I'm not comparing the Bengals to the Lakers, but if you want a team that just needs that next thing to get them over the hump, maybe this is it. If you go to the Bears, well, you're probably going to but you get hired to be fired there. And I think that's what will happen. And I do think they'll go for something, maybe an offensive minded coach. Cliff Kingsbury.
Are you under
Dave Wanstead.
Do you have a good feel that they could do college? Marcus Freeman is a name that is mentioned.
I heard that. Yeah.
What a domino that would be.
Mm-hmm.
To have the Notre Dame job open. Would that mean that the Iowa State job then would be open? Because wouldn't Matt Campbell be a perfect guy at Notre Dame?
That would be one guy that would be, they say, what would Matt Campbell ever leave Iowa State for? I always thought Nebraska might be on one of those lists, and we got to live that experience, and it didn't happen. Notre Dame very much up there, and yes, I think if not now, then when? He might never leave Ames.
Would
Marcus Freeman to the Bears?
Would Marcus Freeman have a better general manager staying at Notre Dame than working in the NFL for the Bears?
I'd stay at Notre Dame.
Poll question.
Ohio State will be sad because they could have him too if they have an opening. Mike Vrabel ain't taking it.
Could we have silly season?
That doesn't involve your team? Sure. Like I said, drama's great when it doesn't involve your teams. That's why the Cowboys must see something. I don't know if it's TV, but it's always a blank show.
Man, PJ Fleck's agent's got to be bored because there's not really good jobs open except for North Carolina right now.
Yeah.
All right, here is Caleb on the 42 Degree Source hotline. Good morning, Caleb.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you as well.
Hey, so quick question. Want to talk about the running back room for 2025. Emmett Johnson, man, what a beast in November. Going forward, does Nebraska kind of look at a primary back type role, kind of how we had with, going all the way back to Mirabula, Rex Burkhead, or are we still going to kind of be looking at that 60-40 split, Dowdell getting most of the carries with Johnson kind of rotating in as needed? Just kind of curious what that looks like. Thanks for taking my call. Looking forward to listening to 1620 for the next 3 years from Japan.
What?
Go Big Red.
Whoa. You can't just hang up. Why are we going to Japan?
Oh, I'm not going to hang up.
That's not by Fremont, is it?
I'm active duty. So
Oh.
I'm to Japan.
All right. Let's see. What will the time difference be?
I think plus 15 hours. So
Okay.
I'm kind of already used to it. I'm lucky to be stationed back home. I'm from Omaha.
Awesome.
So it's been great having my Huskers local again, but I'm used to it. I've been everywhere, so
Hey.
I'll watch them 3 a.m., 3 p.m. We'll make it happen.
Hey, Caleb, thanks for the call and thanks for what you do.
No worries. I appreciate you guys.
Man, I feel
Thanks,
better
Caleb.
now. Hey, Nebraska once played in Tokyo.
They did. And
I've heard a couple stories about the airplane ride out there and certain coaches who are very, very anal about where his team sits.
Nebraska and Kansas State shared a plane going to the Coca-Cola Classic. Is that what it was
I think
named?
that's what it was called.
The game was secondary.
Right.
All the stuff that happened off the field whether it be the Road Warriors cheap shotting a Nebraska player in an elevator that led to a brawl, or Bob Devaney's time over in Tokyo.
Yep, the 1992 Coca-Cola Classic clinched the Big 8 championship for Nebraska.
It was a K-State home game. There was a
point that the chaperone for Coach Devaney said that Japan would never be the same after his stay there. He liked to go. He went on his own personal tour of Tokyo. Oh, yes, I go to the house. Very good, very good. But Caleb's question about the running back room. So, again, you hire a guy like Dana Holgorsen. He has got control over the staff. The only coach that he has said by name in a media setting, I believe, is Donovan Raiola. But running backs played better. Wide receivers finally blocked. Offensive linemen. But you hire him to let him go and put a staff together. He has spoken in the past, not here, but at stuff if you watch on YouTube about his philosophy on offense is he likes young guys at quarterback and wide receiver. I think Dana is very much a teacher, and he likes that role, and he will be able to do it a little bit more just being an offensive coordinator. So those are two positions that he really, really finds important. Think about it. The wide receiver spot in a Dana Holgorsen offense at Nebraska, they've already recruited to. They've already picked up wide receivers the last couple of classes. You've got some difference makers. I don't know about Cortez Mills. His position coach got retained at Oklahoma. They hired the OC yesterday. Nebraska's trying to flip him. I think we wait until tomorrow to find that out. It feels like it goes back and forth. But if you had Mills and Mosey together, that wide receiver position, if you look at the last 3 weeks, Jimmy, the route tree was better. You were scheming guys wide open. You have to believe that Dillon will be more than just fine next year.
With a full spring and summer camp.
So that wide receiver spot's pretty important. I think just like Rule in familiarity, not necessarily friends, but familiarity, I think we need to connect dots on openings on the offensive staff that Holgorsen gets to fill. Did they play for him? Did they coach for him? And then I think you can line up. You can line up candidates. Like, is there somebody in the heydays of West Virginia that played for him that got into coaching that is young, like is late 20s, early 30s, that he would like to have on his staff?
Yeah. And then he can install, as I say, the note card, because it's weird seeing Dana with the big long sheet, because Dana's offense is generally the note card.
But back to running backs and Caleb's question. We don't know what's going to happen with E.J. Barthel. But the rotation next year, I think the rotation that you saw at the end of the season, where it was a lot of Emmett Johnson, and at the right time Dowdell was in the game, it made more sense in the rotation, like the play calls match the personnel that were on the field, I think is what you'll see. I think Emmett Johnson is your RB1, but it may not be RB1 like we thought about in the past, where your RB1 is a 1,200-yard guy. He's a mixture of, over a 3-game span, he's going to run it 44 times and he's going to catch it 19 times.
Exactly. They're going to throw the ball to the backs.
Like Emmett Johnson did. Ives is... They've liked Ives, but what if you have new people here? Will they like Ives? Mekhi Nelson is somebody who is highly thought of, that they redshirted this year. He was the late addition in the recruiting class. And then you've got Jamarian Parker, who they are excited about, who kind of, when he committed to Nebraska a long time ago, Holgorsen wasn't even a thought. But if you look at Jamarian Parker's film, he's a guy that could prosper at a running back position in a Holgorsen offense. So those are 4. Again, I'm not sure on Ives, but I think they're only going to have 5 running backs, which is crazy to think about, that you could only have 5 running backs. Think about the injuries. I mean, Nebraska, at one point this year, they had Ramir was down, Irvin. So you only played essentially 3 running backs.
And I like the system that they use, especially the back half of the season. I liked what Dana was doing with all of them.
but I think five is probably the number in the running back room. And I can get you to 3, not sure about Ives. And then, you go from there. Do you go and get a portal guy? Which ironically, UCLA's leading rusher is in the portal.
You didn't like the Rose Bowl renovations?
UCLA lost a couple of guys yesterday, like good, like high stars that have not yet played, but you lost your leading rusher. Here is Chris before the break. Chris, thanks for the call. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Good. Hey, I was texting a buddy last night just on the conversation of who are the top 10 guys that you do not want to enter the transfer portal this offseason, especially as we're seeing guys like Jamari Butler, Kai Gaber kind of leave, kind of hits. But as we were making the list, of course, guys like Dylan Raiola is at the top. You got Ja'Cory Barney, Princewell, guys like Cam Lenhart, Willis McGahee. But what stood out to me about the list that I was kind of creating is I didn't think about any offensive linemen. And so I just want to kind of pose the thought to you guys of like, what do you think about our offensive line moving next year? Are there any guys on that line that we can't afford to lose? Right now, I just don't know fully what to think about. I mean, obviously, they've seen improvement. They looked really good these past few games. But there's just no name that's standing out of like, oh, man, we can't lose him. So I'm just curious your thoughts. I just noticed that when we're creating lists. I'm just curious your guys' thoughts of offensive line and who are the guys that stand out to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're relatively young on the offensive line. And I'm talking like the Sam Sledge type that have been here for a year or two and have yet to play full time, but they're in line now that a job is open. The thing about the offensive line is Nebraska's offensive line has been veteran for a while. That's not necessarily a good thing. If you're a good offensive lineman, you're not staying in college for 5, 6, 7 years. When I look at the portal, because you have to get to 105 and nearly you can maybe afford 5 to 7 misses. You can't have a roster and you're like, you know what? We missed on 10 scholarship guys, but dang, we have these 10 walk-on guys that are going to be scholarship guys and they make up for them. You can't have those misses anymore.
Look how Florida State swung and missed in the portal last year with guys they brought in.
And if you're going to spend money, you got to spend the right money. And I think now if you're going to spend the money, they've got to be a fit and they got to get on the field right away.
You almost need a general manager.
Difference maker, like a game changer. That's on the head coach if they decide to pay up. And they're like, that's a guy that can change that can get us from 6 to 8 just because that guy is on our roster. Then that's where the head coach comes in. He says, we're going to pay up for that guy and we'll get into a bidding war for whatever he wants to do. I look at the portal this way, and especially in the new landscape of your roster is at 105. Older guys, even if they've played, but maybe they have a year, there's probably either you've said, hey, like for example, linebacker room. Linebackers are going to be young, and they've got a plethora of linebackers that they want to get on the field because they got to figure out if they're going to play or not. And if you are in that linebacker room and maybe you are 3-4 years in, have a year of eligibility left, but you're probably not going to be the every down guy and you're going to be a supplemental guy in 25, that might be a conversation where you say, here's what we see, but feel free to go and look to see if there's another place for you. Those are the guys I don't get, oh no, the sky is falling. It's the 1, 2.5 guys that have been in your program that you're starting to develop that have just started to hit the field that jump into the portal. That's where I go, that's a loss. And back to the offensive line.
Because sometimes it's both for good parties.
Yeah. Back to the offensive line. I think if a young guy in the jumped into the portal off the offensive line, he's probably somebody that's not going to play here.
It's good for him.
But
good for the program.
That's a good experiment to have of a top 10 guys that you just, no matter what, they can't leave. And if they say, Coach, you're like, come talk to the financial guy.
I will get,
Let
me a duffel bag.
Let's go to the steakhouse and let's talk to the Pete's.
Yeah.
Caleb did mention one person, and that would be Cam Lenhart. Keep an eye on Cam Lenhart. I thought his reps went down, and the emergence of Keona Davis. So keep an eye on what Cam Lenhart does moving forward. All right, quick break. Come back. Brian Christopherson, top of the hour, 35 past the hour. Lots of emails. We'll run through some emails and some tweets that people have shared on this Tuesday edition of the Gary Sharp Show, the final week of the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone.
Do as all the cool kids do and join the VIP club. Is it?
Dua Lipa is still a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Dua
2019.
Lipa.
Do you?
Oh,
Love her music.
celebrate her entire catalog.
New live album coming out this week, actually.
Yeah, head over to Sam Goody. Get your $21.99 CD.
Last time,
do they not do that anymore?
Hey, Peter, last time you bought an album?
Last time I bought an album, probably as a gift, it was one of the Taylor Swift ones, not the recent one. I'm trying to think of what the one before that was.
She's a country singer. People
the
forget
original Taylor Swift album.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been at least like probably 5-6 years.
Well, then you got to buy a CD.
Did you also go to Target and buy the book, the Eras Tour book?
Yeah, I heard that's a big deal.
I was at Target on Black Friday, and I was unaware that was a release happening that day. Clean out by the time my sister's a big fan, and she was there, and she got the new anthology. She didn't really want the book, but yeah, they were clean out of the books.
Shout out to my friend Marin, who did it with a gift card we gave her for puppy sitting. Posed with a picture and everything. And then I heard that this was a big deal.
I think everybody that went to see Taylor in her U.S. tour should get a free book.
They paid enough for it. They should get 2 books.
Why not?
Oh, yeah, we paid enough for those tickets.
You should be getting a book. You can go with your Colorado Heisman gift box. That they sent you.
Her boyfriend is not mentioned in the book, thankfully.
Oh, that means things are still going well. He doesn't have an album about him yet.
Hey, they spent Thanksgiving together. This is on the track, and the Hallmark holiday special is out. Love is in the air.
Oh, that's officially out,
I guess. And her boyfriend is on the fraudulent 11-1 football team. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
It's the Patriots. They're gonna be 17-1. Yeah. Join the VIP club. Sign up for 1620. The email. You can find out everything that Peter buys and be the first to know all the exciting content happening on the zone, including sports news, contests, promotions, and the new show, Sharp and the Peterman. Sign up today at 1620thezone.com. Did I let it out of the bag? Oh, no. We had a suggestion on the stream. They want Sharp and the Peterman. I would be here for that. Yeah.
But people don't understand, like when Peter comes in here, he's also doing traffic. So he is running back and forth.
Yeah.
He's the most versatile man in radio.
And this carpet.
Paid twice, actually, today. Or at least you should be.
You should be.
I wish.
Coming up on Monday night, I don't know if you guys have looked at the schedule for the NFL. Week 14 is pretty good. Green Bay at Detroit on Thursday.
Okay.
Monster game in a division where you could make a case that 3 teams in the NFC North could win 14 games. Then Sunday night football is for essentially the AFC West title, the Chargers and the Chiefs. And the Chargers are 3.5-point underdogs. Seattle, Arizona's playing this weekend. So it's a really good schedule. And then we get to Monday night.
And it was supposed to be a banger. Then it just kind of...
Burrow against Prescott. Bengals against the Cowboys. And
2 contenders.
And then ESPN said, we're going to need some help with that game. The Simpsons are going to tackle Monday Night Football.
We had Toy Story last year. That was fantastic.
It couldn't get flexed.
I think it's okay to admit outside. So it isn't for us. So this is probably Disney's long bid to bring more kids to the NFL. Which, should college football attempt something like this? Like, are kids attracted to college football? Like, how do kids become college football fans nowadays? Just because of their parents?
It's usually, yeah.
But the NFL does a really good job of not only having kids play football, but also, whether it be Nickelodeon or this one with The Simpsons.
Like the
and I don't really equate like The Simpsons with kids, but that's what they're trying to do.
We were the kids.
Yes. So Bart Simpson is going to, at times, play quarterback for the Bengals. Homer is going to play for the Cowboys. Lisa and Marge are going to interview players. And then baby Maggie is going to operate the Skycam. So that's the option on Monday night is the Simpsons broadcast. And I'm okay to admit that I'm going to watch it.
It'll be better than the team Jerry's put together, so sure.
I'll give it a watch.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
I might even stay up and watch the whole thing.
Parts of the SpongeBob one that I saw.
I did not see the SpongeBob one.
I flipped back and forth just to see what was happening because I grew up on SpongeBob. I was like, I wonder what they'll do. It was entertaining.
I watched the Toy Story one last year and I loved it. I was like, I want more of these.
More submissions for defensive coordinator. John says Ryan Walters is available. He's going to need some rehab and is a hell of a defensive coordinator. So I mentioned Frank Oakham earlier, who played at Texas against Nebraska, played for the Omaha Nighthawks, could be a defensive line coach candidate. Would we be okay with a Colorado Buffalo who got triggered by Nebraska as a addition to the staff?
Ryan Walters?
You should nod your head and say yes.
Yes.
Good defensive coach. There's one name. Chad throws out a name that I've not heard before. What about Tyson Summers from Western Kentucky? Nebraska needs some turnovers to help jumpstart this offense, and sometimes there hasn't been a better team the past couple of years than WKU at causing them. You pair a couple of turnovers with a quick strike from Dana's offense, you can flip the momentum in some of the games in a hurry. Thank you, Chad. That is a name that I will go and research.
Only if he brings the mascot with. It's a package deal.
Randy Lee? Randy Lee, former voice of Nebraska basketball, has been the longtime voice of the Hilltoppers. Zach writes in, if Rule promotes, Butler better not be Nebraska's next defensive coordinator. If Rule promotes from within for the DC position, then that will be enough for me to know that Rule isn't the guy for Nebraska. I will basically be all out on him. I've been saying it since Bo Pelini. Nebraska isn't a job where coordinators can learn on the fly. They need to have experienced coordinators.
Some of the streams suggest Clanderman at K-State. Might be some changes on Coach Kleiman's staff. Who knows what Coach Kleiman's future is, because there's some rumors he could retire. So how could that?
Yeah. He was asked about that after the Iowa State game. That caught me off guard.
There's some smoke to that. I'll just say that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
He's a relatively young guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So keep an eye on that situation as well as any players that could be.
Wow, that
not a guarantee, but yeah. Hey,
why is there chatter about that?
They got some personal issues going on that they have to possibly deal with, and so it's not a guarantee. It's no guarantees.
Now, this is a KU guy talking about K-State. Are you talking about like in the walls of K-State
football?
No,
nothing like that.
Nothing
like that.
Okay. All right.
No. And I think the world of Chris Klein. That's a hell of a good football coach. So I hope everything works out. And honestly, I hope he stays at K-State. It's great for them. It's great for him.
That would be a guy that I would think when Kirk Ferentz retires after next year, after he beats Woody Hayes' Big Ten win record. So he has that and then he can retire. Chris Kleiman coming back home, Waterloo guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wow.
So something to keep an eye out.
Yeah, okay. So now that makes sense because, they get beat by Iowa State. They finished 8-4, a little bit of a letdown, especially with their portal additions and Avery Johnson in his first year as quarterback. Okay. Because I saw the clip and I was like, why are they asking him? He's been the best thing since Bill Snyder left.
Mm-hmm. And they love him. He's a great dude. He's been the perfect successor to Bill Snyder. And yeah.
Buckeye Ross writes in about Ryan Day. What an absolute moron. He just can't help himself sometimes. He decided last week to inject himself into the offensive game planning and change concepts, which would get most people fired for its deployment. There were multiple staff members that tried to talk him and Chip out of it, but Ryan's inferior, complex, thank you, and desire to show people how tough it is, build a game plan to run right into the teeth of the Michigan defense instead of attacking the edges. I've never seen anything so stupid in my life.
He's not wrong.
I
still can't figure out what happened.
Exactly. But when they move the ball, they use their world-class wide receivers. They ran into that stat 23 straight years. The team that has rushed for the most yards between Michigan and Ohio State has won the game. But their game was also different. Their game plan, they weren't making any headway in just, as Ross alluded to, and he's spot on, of just pounding the ball up the middle. In that
game, you're just trying to have one more point than the opponent. Whatever gets it done, you do it.
Matt mentions Zach Taylor, quarterback coach at Nebraska next year.
He's going to have some time. There's a lot of jobs.
Can't read that one. Chris, this is a good one to go back to our Taylor Swift conversation. Whose team goes farther? Haley Steinfeld or Taylor Swift?
Now that's the rivalry I'm here for.
Team Haley.
Team Haley, but
Sorry,
we know the
Gary.
answer is going to be Taylor's team's going to end up going
Hey,
further. I've already resigned myself.
The NFL is not about style
They're not
points.
fraudulent.
You just need to win.
Exactly.
They're 11-1. It's going to be a challenge on Sunday night against the Chargers.
Would you say the new Patriots? You think, oh, this is when they're going to lose. Damn it, they won again. How do they keep doing this?
15, 87, and 95 show up to play. We got a tackle spot that is, but
Pacheco's back.
Humphreys is going to play. Pacheco is back.
They still got Spags.
Andy Reid won't make the mistake of 3rd down and 2 late in the game like he did against the Raiders. Now, defense, when Kansas City doesn't get pressure, the one cornerback spot gets exploited. Hollywood Brown is coming back. I don't know. They're a weird team, but they're 11-1. They're not the best team in the NFL, even though they have the best record.
Just got to win the games.
But they just win. And, I mean,
it's okay. You're living your dream. For all the bad football you saw over so many years, you can't. Hey, I thought I was going to see winning Cowboys football forever.
Even when they've had better, consistent performances, they don't blow teams out.
No.
They play the kind of game that they played against the Raiders, that they play against the
Denver.
Panthers. Yeah, they mess with their food, but you never have the sense that they're going to lose the game.
No.
And then they either have a blocked field goal or a fumble on the wild play that happened at the Raiders game.
Before that fumble happened, I was watching it with my grandparents. I was like, if they get into field goal position, which Chief is going to block it? Because I knew it was going to come down to something like that.
Hey, it's the complete opposite. My Saturdays compared to Sundays on one-score games,
you're getting the full experience, both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, one hand's over here, the other is over there, and you're like, wow, one when you're behind or you have a lead, I never have a fear. The other one's like, well, I know how this is going to end.
Yeah, Saturday night you got your face in your hands, you're texting, you're tweeting, and then by Sunday you're like, no, everything's good. Have a great week. All right.
Buffalo,
living the high life.
The Blue Collar City Bowl in New Orleans. We ready for Buffalo, Detroit?
I don't know if New Orleans. Well, if there's any city that could probably withstand that, it could be New Orleans.
Philadelphia might have something to say. Detroit is banged up. They've had so many injuries in their front seven, and somehow they keep going. But great game Thursday night, Green Bay and Detroit. Unfortunate for Green Bay, Detroit's been off for a week. Short week on the road for the Packers.
Mm-hmm. Against a team that's been meat necklacing people left and right.
They've been doing what?
Meat necklace. If you know, you know.
Is this something I want to ask a follow-up to? Is this NSFW?
No, not that. It was a Pat Knight reference. So of course I dropped a Pat Knight reference on here, and they got blown out by KU. There's no puns there. I mean nothing because of tomorrow. I'm not even thinking of that. But they got blown out by 50 the last game of the 2008 season. This was after Bob Knight had retired or whatever midseason, and Pat finished the year, and they won by 50. KU won by 50 on senior night, and Pat said after the game they fitted us for a meat necklace. And then they turn the dogs loose.
Okay.
So once in a while you get a meat necklace scene, and so
I might use that.
Nice. That's good.
Meat necklace.
A meat
you got
necklace.
the right hoodie. You say that about you know about the meat necklace, my man.
Brian Christopherson. Let's see if he has a meat necklace reference. He'll join us coming up next on the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone. By the way, clearly, it was not exciting that I forgot that the Packer-Dolphin game was also on Thanksgiving.
The Dolphins forgot as well.
We have a much better Thursday game with the Packers and the Lions from Ford Field. We also have Mr. Entertainment, guy we like, guy that was busy yesterday, guy that will be busy with the folks from Husker 24/7. Brian Christopherson joins us. Good morning, BC.
Good morning. I was about to boo when you said the Lions and Packers, but I held my tongue.
We have a dump button. You could have said whatever you want.
You know what? In that division, you could have 3 teams win 14 games.
Yeah, it's possible. At least I would say at least 12 or 13 for sure at this point. So, yeah, it's a tough division. The Lions have. I'm not saying this to wish it on. Actually, I am. I'm saying it to wish it on them. They have the '98 Vikings vibes going. Where it's just like too easy on offense. Maybe you get them in the playoffs. They tighten up a little bit. Guy misses a kick from 35 yards that he hasn't missed all year. Something like that happens. Not that I'm dwelling on that. That's a long time ago, and I don't think about it anymore. But that could happen.
Would have been the greatest Super Bowl ever. 48-45.
Anyway, we got stuff around here, I guess.
So to yesterday's proceedings, what was the most significant to you that happened yesterday, either from a player standpoint or a coach standpoint?
It was the statement that at least it hit my email inbox at 7:11 p.m. about Holgorsen. I know Thamel had put it out there a few minutes before that, but about him returning with the contract. Didn't surprise me, but I thought it was the needed counter punch to the day's activity. Yeah. And had it taken even a half hour or hour longer, I don't know if Husker fan sanity would have made it. So it was like right on cue. And I thought that was the biggest headline of the day, honestly, because if you had to ask me before the Iowa game, okay, when you get to early December, there's going to be a lot happening the first few days, portal and all this stuff, coaches. What's the biggest? It's like retaining Holgorsen to me, because I just think there's so much weight not only in having a respected play caller like that, and maybe I wrote this, maybe I'm a little biased by the fact I have loved his press conferences and the truth sermons we've had from him up front, but also the fact that he's been a head coach for 13 years, and I think right now that sounding board for Rule shouldn't be underestimated along with the play calling. So I thought that was the biggest deal, and I'm not dismissing all the departures and stuff that came before it, because I've had a lot of respect for Tony White and what he's done, and I think if I were a Florida State fan, I'd be pretty pumped up about it. So I don't view that as insignificant. I'm not glossing over it, but the biggest headline to me was Holgorsen, and it was like a little boxing match. It punched back at the other stuff.
That's so true, BC, because of all the things that happened yesterday. If you were to say, okay, what's the opposite of what happened? Dana not staying and let's say he took the Oklahoma job, which obviously is gone as well now too. That would have caused more panic among the fan base, and rightfully so, because you're kind of putting all your eggs in that basket to fix the woes.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I mean, I'm not trying to throw something out there in the air, but you want your quarterback and some of those young players on offense, I think in particular, to be hopefully excited about the direction things are going. And at least in the recent press conferences after games and stuff, you felt with Raiola like a real, just the excitement about how they were getting better under Holgorsen. And so you hope that all connects together, and you'd like to see that with the full runway. I just wanted to see what that looks like if Holgorsen's here a full off season and working with some of those guys. And I also knew, regardless if Tony was coaching here next year or not, it was going to be a very much a remodeled defense in 25. It was just going to be a lot of new faces in the nucleus. And so the fact that you'll have a new leader with that group sort of fits in a way, and it's not that strange to me. And I mean, honestly, since Tony's been here, it's always been, when's he leaving? That's always been like a discussion that's part of it. So I think a lot of people kind of had it pegged for about 2 years that he might be here, and so it is. I think the disappointment, and where it would have been more celebratory, is that it was always thought he was going to do a head coaching job, not a DC move, which some people would view as lateral.
What do you think? So the weird season unfolded, and a guy off the street calls plays for the last 3 games, and we saw a significant difference. Whether guys executed, just individuals that performed better. Only 10 points on Friday night, but there were a lot of points that were left on the field, unfortunately, for Nebraska. Now with a commitment, going to be here, where do you think will be the biggest impact to Holgorsen of being here for 3 games and then scheming against the likes of a USC, Wisconsin, Iowa, being involved in a Big Ten night game late in the year where elements come into play? Will it be more significant to Holgorsen for the current guys here, or for what he now needs to make sure everything works?
That's a really good question. I think the biggest thing for him getting here for these 3 games was for him to examine the personnel of, like, these are my nucleus guys. These are the guys that I really feel like I can go to battle with, and he already probably has a strong idea of some of them. We could use the example of the fact when he first got here, he was calling everybody by numbers, right? Mm-hmm. Not names. And that started to shift by like week 3. There were certain guys who had moved on from number to name territory where he'd say their names. And I think if you want to use it that way, that was an example of, like, he'd start to figure out, okay, these are some of the core group of guys who I can work with. Like when you heard him talk about Ja'Cory Barney and how he reminds him of Tank Dell that he had at Houston. And so I think he saw certain guys and maybe they reminded him of players he's had. Okay, I can use him this way. If we did this with him and we had more time with the planning, we could also go this avenue with this guy. So I think that was the biggest thing. But your question could get you into a really layered response, and that's why it's a really good question, because there had to be some use to, even though he's a Midwest guy, he's played in cold weather games and all that at West Virginia. He's very familiar with Iowa Hawkeye football. You go into that game on Black Friday and you're down there on the sideline when it's 20 degrees and you see like just how it is. Like if you don't take advantage of that 1 or 2 plays, you lose that game. And it has happened in Nebraska constantly. And I don't know, there might be some lessons there. Maybe not. Maybe it's as simple as, hey, catch that pass on the 2nd and 1 play with 7 minutes left. It's a 50-some yard touchdown, and it's a 17-10 win. That might be what he would say in a really blunt moment. It could be as easy as that. But I have to think there's something you take from just getting a look at, okay, this is the Big Ten right here, right now, and this is what it takes against these type of defenses. It's got to count for something.
And then there's the other part of the equation, which you can't ignore. If I'm a portal receiver, if I'm an offensive guy, that name means something. Dana Holgorsen I'm taking that call. So suddenly there's a level of caliber of receivers that Nebraska may not have been in contention for at all, but now to go play for Dana because he's comparing guys to the likes of Tank Dell, that name's going to carry something to where there could be some names who are like, whoa, they got that. How'd that happen? That happened because of him.
Yeah, there's a little momentum with offense potentially, and I say that knowing that any day can bring it. We shouldn't be surprised by anything, I guess, at this point. So you never know what's going to happen as far as a player announcement or the portal or all that. But there should be a lot of guys on offense who have a little hop in their step. So that was what Monday was. It was like, okay, the offense sort of got a jolt there. And the defense, you're like, okay, we knew it was going to be a remodeling job, but maybe we're taking this down to the base structure even more than we knew. When you see like Jamari and Mekhi Bear go in there, But what you're asking about the offense is absolutely right. Like maybe a Cortez Mills still says, yeah, I'd like to be a part of that. We'll see. So that, that would be big. I thought that was a big part of the day too. There were some negative headlines for sure. There was the big Holgerson thing, but also within it, at least as far as the recruits I talked to and got feedback from, it was encouraging because immediately at like noon yesterday, I think there were knots in people's stomach. Like, what about this recruiting class? The timing here on all of this stuff is terrible 2 days from signing day. So when you get Dawson Merritt, saying, let's go, and you get Christian Jones with the GBR tweet, and Malcolm Simpson told us that he was still locked in. So anything can change, but that was like good stuff too for Nebraska. So it really was a day of like ups and downs, and it kind of, I don't know if it evened out or if you'd say it was more yay or nay, but the Holgerson thing made it more of an even fight by the end of it.
Now that we're at 105 and tomorrow is financial letter of agreement day or whatever they're calling it, but Nebraska has some guys that, we've done this long enough, BC, where they committed a long time ago and they're really good players, but we kind of forget about them because we get enamored by, hey, that guy that's going to be a flip. But you mentioned Merritt. There's Parker that is out there. There's Mosey. I mean, this is a fairly good recruiting class, and then you have a nice in-state that is complementary as well. You need to get Tyson Terry and Pierce Newberry healthy. But moving forward with 105 as your cap, what does that mean for recruiting classes every year? Because high school recruiting, to me, to you, to Nebraska, to other schools, still matters. You have to have it. But do you have to have guys play now sooner than later? That there's no real grace period to like kind of, hey, you got a year and a half. It's more like, hey, you basically have a year and it might not even be that.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get quite to that, but I don't think you're that far from the reality of it. Like there's going to be such an urgency with recruits. Like, obviously it takes guys sometimes 2-3 years to develop, especially if you're a lineman, but there is going to be, what can you at least do in some facet for this team within, like, by your second season? Like, can you be on the 2 deep by then? I think you'd have to, that's a real question when it's down to 105. And that's why I think it stinks, because I think we've seen a lot of examples of guys who it happens in year 3, 4, sometimes even 5. And a lot of those stories are out the window. And so I don't know. This is a question I'd like to ask Rule, and when we can, about if it in any way changes the profile you're looking at as far as the recruitment of a prospect. I know they've always looked hard, as a lot of coaches say they do, but I think the staff especially does this guy truly eat, breathe, sleep football? Is he that guy? And if he's not that guy, even if he's a 4-star, even if he's got these sort of traits that you might like, I don't think it can work right now. Like, it's got to be a guy who, you know this as well as I do, Sharpie, that some guys are just gifted and they've always been the best whenever they stepped on a field all their life as a kid. But it doesn't necessarily mean you love that particular game. You're just really good at it against your peers. And then you get to this level, and if you don't love it and you just don't want to immerse yourself in it and all that stuff, you aren't going to succeed at this level. And so you have to get beyond even traits and potential and all that, and it has to be about just desire to want to be great at football, or this is my favorite thing to do in all the world sort of thing. You got to find those type of kids, I think, to have a shot.
BC, is there anything positive to the 105? I'm genuinely curious, because I have a hard time finding anything positive.
Not to me, really. I think
I was afraid.
I think most of the coaches think that too. So we're in good company. Like the Big Ten coaches, Ferentz had the quote before the Nebraska game with their media about how he walked out of, I think it was the May meetings, and he thought it was going to be a 120. He would say he wasn't necessarily confident, but he was feeling like it was trending that way. And I think if you listen to Rule, like in the off season, he was of a similar mind that was going to be the number. And that just made so much more sense to me. I get maybe we don't need 140, 150, I understand that. But 120 gives you some grace for what the previous question was about development. It also allows you a few preferred walk-ons. That's a sad part of this cycle. Yeah. We're not seeing local guys. And I love some of these local guys like Ike Ackerman and guys like that. And I hope they tear it up, at their schools that they go to. But there are names that you think of that in the past would have probably been part of that preferred walk-on. And you don't see those post on X or anything, because they can't afford them because of the body count. And so that stinks. And so I don't know, I guess it makes you tighten up and really like your evaluation skills. You have to like say, this seems like a negative, but we're going to embrace it as a positive and figure out how to be the best with the number that's given to us and be better at other people at maximizing our 105. That's the only way you can look at it, because that's the reality of it.
A year from now, Dylan Raiola looks like what?
I just think he's going to be a lot more seasoned and probably a little sounder in a few decisions that maybe escaped him in the middle part of this year, having been through it once. And also, I think the Holgorsen effect can be real on him.
Yep.
I really, as you picked up on, I've been huge on the Dana addition. And so I'm pretty excited about that part of it, and especially for Dylan. In many ways, his freshman season went as you would have predicted. There's a lot of guys who have come in with a lot of fanfare who didn't recruits across the country at the quarterback position who don't even start their first year. And he did, and he went through and he took some arrows, and he had a really rough middle part. Some of it was other guys, some of it was him. As long as he's honest with himself about sort of the shortcomings he had, and I think he is of that make, I think he can really catapult off of it. So I thought it was a solid, first go around. And the thing that will be key for Dylan, and I think he knows this, is when you're at that position, we can talk about surface level numbers, but how much of it comes down to like 4 or 5 throws throughout the year, like in those throws, like it's a lot of pressure, but it's those particular throws you remember, like, did you make that throw in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see, like that throw against Illinois where he led Lindenmeyer too far, the one where he missed to Jalen on the deep shot on the first series against Iowa. Those are the throws we'll see if he can bat a higher percentage on next year, because it might swing a game or two. It would have this season.
Hey, BC, as always, we appreciate it. I know you, Shafe, and Brunson, are going to be awful busy over the next couple of weeks. Appreciate it. And hopefully when we talk next week, we'll have a bowl destination and some juicy stuff to talk about, because we'll be a day into the portal being open.
Yeah. It'll be big stuff. I always enjoy being on. I was saying to somebody, I've been on the show, I think, for like 15 years or so, like that, and it's just part of my Tuesday morning. So I always look forward to it.
Well, I appreciate that. Great stuff yesterday, my friend. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
That's Brian Christophers from Husker 24/7.
Got reflective on this final week of the Gary Sharp Show.
It's the final week of the name of the show. Some people tune in and out, and they're like, "Where are you guys going?" There'll be a new morning show here next week, and I will be part of it. Oh. And on Thursday, we will let all of you know who the new co-host is. They will join us on the show.
As they do every... Nope.
See, I see what you're doing, Jimmy. I see what you're doing. I was just going to say something nice about DeJuan Harris having maybe his best year as a Jayhawk.
And you will tomorrow, too.
Hunter Dickinson.
Thursday morning.
Villain. Who will Hunter Dickinson kick tomorrow?
That's what I'm wondering.
Will it be a fan? Will it be a student? Will it be a Creighton Blue Jay? Will it be Fred King?
The Blue Crew?
He won't. I don't think he'll touch Kalkbrenner.
He should.
But honest, like DeJuan Harris is having his best year as a Jayhawk so far. That's huge for them.
And they could have a really good team. And then I remember the Final Fours in San Antonio, and Kansas has some great history with Final Fours in the city of San Antonio.
They do. We will have plenty to talk about tomorrow. That is a 7:30 tip in town tomorrow night.
NBA
Huge
time.
game. Huge game for Creighton. Big game for KU. They're going to roll in here number 1. That is a 7:30. You'll
Big
hear
game
it
for
on the
Omaha.
Zoom.
How about it for the community itself?
Well,
Have that game.
Look at when they brought back the KU Nebraska basketball. They did a home and home, and how big that was. Unfortunately, KU hit a last-second shot in the corner to win that game, and then sat in a very sad and empty Pinnacle Bank Arena to watch volleyball, because then they aired the volleyball match on the big screen.
That's right.
But I
met Ric Flair that night in New York.
Kansas City for Omaha, Nebraska, and Creighton. Kansas City is a good spot to play hoops in. Omaha already plays there every year in the conference, but for Nebraska and Creighton, and they've done this, play at T-Mobile.
An MTE? Don't invite UConn because we heard Darren Hurley talk about those.
Kansas State and KU have been willing to play Nebraska, and they played them in basketball. It'd be great to have them in football. I know they're in the SEC, but I don't get why Mizzou will not engage with a Creighton and Nebraska in more like home and home stuff.
Yeah, Mizzou is PTSD from Omaha after 12.
Well, I was told, because I asked this of people in Nebraska, and they said, we reached out to Mizzou and in multiple sports. Because you can hop in a bus and you can drive from Lincoln to Columbia and you can get there in 5-6 hours, depending on traffic. It's easy. You don't have to fly in, all of that stuff. For Olympic sports,
right?
Like for basketball, you're going to fly in, and they got silence from Mizzou. Nebraska really. It was a couple years after they had been in the Big Ten, and Mizzou had been in the SEC, and I coursed, and I can't remember who else was involved in scheduling. Like they reached out and they were like, "Hey, we'd like to bring this. We'd like to play Mizzou. It'd be great for your fans, great for us." And Mizzou either gave the impression that they were done with former Big 12 teams, or they had something against Nebraska and they weren't going to play them. But playing in Kansas City, great idea. Great idea.
Oh, yeah. Power and light. Bumping, they miss Nebraska fans.
But I think Bill Self likes coming to Omaha. I mean, I think this is...
Good things have happened for Bill in Omaha.
And I know this game is set up because of the Big East Big 12 Challenge, but I'd love to see KU and Creighton and KU and Nebraska and hoops play home and home. They play in other sports.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
All right, quick break. Come back. Gary, stay right there. Plus, more emails. And the Omaha Lancers are in the news this morning. They used to be in the news because they were unfortunately finishing runner-up to the Lincoln Stars when I was there, or they were actually hanging banners, the old Exarban Coliseum. Did you know that the Omaha Lancers still existed? If you didn't, they're in the news nationally again this morning. We'll tell you about that when we come back as we roll till 10 and turn it over to the Connor Happer Show. This is the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone.
remember this video.
Hey, so I'm on Tickets for Less, our good partners, and I'm looking at seats that are available for tomorrow night's KU Creighton game.
Okay.
Most of them are in the 200s, so the upper level.
Fair.
Not
Still a good
bad.
seat.
Not bad. I mean, you're in the $60 each range.
That's not bad at all.
You'd pay $60 to watch KU and Creighton play.
Hell yes, I would.
Not
Just in general.
Really not a bad seat in the chai.
Mhm.
No.
I thought they would be a lot more. Let me see if you want to sit row DD in section 120,
double D's.
that'll cost you, like it does in real life, $363. It's on Tickets for Less.
Excellent.
All right, here is Gary. Good morning, Gary.
Hey, good morning. Hey, trying to understand this 105 roster count.
Mm-hmm.
Do we assume, and I guess you should never try to assume, but does that mean all 105 now are going to be able to travel on a road game, or is it still going to be only 85?
No, so I don't think the Big Ten will adjust, and the Big Ten is 74 that you can dress.
Or is it 70? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still, they don't get to take the whole 105.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all I needed to find out.
Hey, thank you, Gary. This is a good question, and we don't know the result yet, but it's going to happen quicker. Jordan writes in, what is the trickle-down effect of the 105 rule? Lower-level football will increase talent, but the opportunities for many kids may be lost. How are those coaches going to navigate this new world?
You hinted to that earlier in the show about what's this going to do to JUCO football, FCS football, the other conferences. And there's going to be a trickle-down of some sort. I don't know. Here's the small sampling based on what's been said and what BC said that I kind of think I could see happening. This is actually a rare positive of this. There are going to be more misses in that you maybe weren't able to be as patient with developing someone. So somebody who really explodes years 3 and 4, unfortunately, you may have to make decisions that you didn't want to, but whoever benefits from that player, it'll be truly a, whoa, where'd this guy come from? Well, they projected him to be a player, but he was a fringe guy, so they had to get rid of him because of the 105. So there'll be guys to be had. So I guess that's the one positive. That's all I got. It might be more positive for the lower levels because they're going to get some dudes out of it, I would think.
Are we in danger? And again, this is further down the road because this is the first year. There's no grace period. This is ridiculous that there is no, maybe not grace period is the right one.
I liked your plan.
But of a transition of 130, 120, 105, instead of boom, you're at 105. But could we eventually, 5 years, 10 years, see less people playing football?
Yes.
I mean, we were talking about, hey, man, suburban moms not going to let their kids play football anymore because of concussions. And it proved that was not entirely true because the numbers have been really good. But
shout out, moms.
If there are less opportunities, are young men, when they, start to work their way through high school, are they going to decide, maybe a different sport for me, and we have less people playing football?
And then how does that tie into more trickle down? That has to be, because there are some numbers that support that, which obviously is sad. We've talked about that before on these shows, but it's hard to tell. But if there's one thing we know is that that's a very distinct possibility, about as much as the Big Ten could have 40 teams by then.
That's true. But somebody, I do want to mention this because I think this was important yesterday. Tomorrow is the day. It's no longer called National Letter of Intent Signing Day. You sign a financial agreement. But Nebraska will have a good class. Couple of guys that are waiting on. Still up in the air. Cortez Mills is probably the biggest one. I think Michael Terry has played the game where he's going to get paid in the NIL by Texas. But Nebraska has a chance to be top 20, and they need to be top 20. They got to live in that world. And one prospect that they tried to flip that is local is Chase Lofton. And Lofton yesterday, ironically on the day that Nebraska lost their defensive coordinator, Florida State, Lofton sticks with his verbal commitment to Florida State. So he is going to sign to go to Tallahassee tomorrow. Really good player, state champion from Millard South. But I think it's important because I mean, the amount of kids statewide that are being recruited has gone up. And next year's class in this state will be ginormous. There will be a lot of attention towards the prospects in the state of Nebraska. I think it's important to continue to recruit not Nebraska in-state, is that a guy like Chase Lofton sticks with his commitment. So that schools who want to recruit Nebraska will continue to recruit Nebraska, and they're not like, well, we put in all this work and we got a verbal commitment, but at the end they're just going to flip and stay in state. Why would we spend money and resources to recruit a kid from Nebraska? Because that's what most of them do. Mm-hmm. So it would have been nice for Nebraska, in addition, because they've, you got an interesting tight end room with old and young and really nothing in between.
And he's a dude.
And he's a good player. But I think it's important for a local kid to stick with his commitment to an out-of-state school so that out-of-state schools go, hey, you know what? It's not necessarily just going to flip at the last moment.
Which is good for a lot of kids to be given the chance.
Mike says, I think you'll see a significant increase in better Division II rosters.
That's not a bad thing. When we talk about FCS football, that might not be a bad thing.
Maybe
either.
Northwest Missouri State football will be back. Remember when Northwest Missouri State football ran Division II?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Not so much anymore. They actually made a coaching change at the end of their season. I could see that. I think if you have good
MIAA?
if you have good programs that are FCS and health, just up Interstate 29, you could go South Dakota State, and North Dakota State. Mm-hmm. And you can go south and you can run into Northwest Missouri State, Kearney.
Yeah.
I mean, there's good small
Pitt.
college football in this state. Mm-hmm. And then there's Iowa Western. Mm-hmm. I think if you have really good head coaches that are well connected, that also, play the game with colleges that they can't keep a guy on the 105. Maybe they place him in your junior college, and then the next year that spot opens, and I don't know, maybe they come back or they get another opportunity. The ones that'll prosper and benefit that are at FCS, JUCO, Division II, NAIA even, are the smart ones that have connections in college. Mm-hmm. Like Ryan Held, is he going to lean on his connection with Matt Rule?
Yeah. Hey, I got some guys.
Hey, there's going to
good kid.
We can't keep such and such. Now, this is also, this flood into the portal as a cut down to 105 is like this year. It's not good. This isn't good for the sport. And the best organized staffs and general managers and front offices and however you manage your roster will be the ones that continue just to move along and you don't miss a beat. But you're going to need a collective effort, and I'm talking about the collectives. The NIL are going to be involved as well. Mm-hmm. I teased this earlier, and Peter, I want you to jump in the conversation because you have a little knowledge because you've lived in Omaha, and so you know the Lancers. I have fun with the Omaha Lancers because I used to be, when the Lincoln Stars started for the first decade, I was the play-by-play guy. And we had great success with the Stars. Steve Johnson, Jim Flug in the front office, Steve Zuha. It was fantastic. It was like the biggest party going. Played in the ice box, hung banners, had great players, loved it. Hockey took off in Lincoln. I'm a little bit sad that I see the ice box and it's not jam-packed every night of 4,000 plus, but the USHL is a little bit different. And Omaha hockey has had an impact because that is a bigger brand and a better brand of hockey. But Lincoln and Omaha were rivals. I mean, it was Steve Johnson against Mike Hastings. And Hasty is a friend of mine to this day, and we spent a lot of time together. We spent a lot of time at the Pipeline after Omaha would play Lincoln at Exarban Coliseum. That was his spot. We'd go across the street. We'd have beers. It was fantastic. But that was like Exarban Coliseum, 6,000 people. It was packed. The late Ted Bear owned it. I mean, it was the rivalry, and the Lancers were the premier franchise in the USHL. And then Exarban shuts down, and they got to find a home. They go to Council Bluffs. They're playing in the Mid-American Center, and it was okay, but it wasn't anything like Exarban Coliseum, and your fans didn't want to go across the river. And then they go to the Civic Auditorium, and you're like, okay, but Omaha hockey was taking off. Now they're playing in a nice building. They're good. Omaha Lancers, since they got to Ralston Arena, and some people may even look at Ralston Arena and go, man, that's a long way away. I might even say that, and I live at 67th and Center.
Yeah, he goes places. I'm the one that didn't like to leave my couch.
But what has happened of late is actually kind of sad. Because it has been a friggin' dumpster fire with the Omaha Lancers. They don't have the presence they used to have in this community. They don't have the media coverage that they used to have. You very rarely see scores or highlights on television. They still exist. There will be nights where they put a lot of people in attendance at Ralston Arena. But off the ice, holy jeez. They've already had an upheaval. Yesterday, they announced that they are under their 9th head coach since 2021. It's their third different head coach.
That was 3 years ago.
This season. Yeah.
An average of 3 a year.
Yep.
They had a player revolt a couple years ago. There are like hockey reporters that are dialed into the USHL and that, junior A hockey that are predicting that there will be another player revolt this week with the Omaha Lancers. Now, the ownership has changed hands.
A coup.
It is an absolute mess. That's an embarrassment for a franchise that used to be the premier of that league, of what they've become. And I actually think there's a couple of people that will still work in a front office that have been there from like day one. And the Lancers were awful. Like their first year, I think they went 0-48 or something like that. But then Mike Hastings came along and they started to hang banners. But I saw that yesterday and I'm like, wow, what is going on? And you know this, Peter. Man, it's rough over there.
Yeah.
It's really, really rough.
And I mean, all you got to do, go look at the latest coaching announcement on Facebook. Look at the comments. That tells you all you need to know.
Well,
100 plus comments.
And and it's not just
the fans are fed up.
It's not just the Omaha Lancers, the USHL, but they have other youth hockey that is under the Lancer logo and colors. And I know that they've lost respect in the hockey community. And man, this is a really good hockey community, and people are dialed in.
It is. I've noticed that since being here. Shout out to my drum guys at Omaha.
Once you lose that respect or you burn somebody,
I don't think you get it back.
You're done in this town when it comes to the hockey people. Hockey people are pretty loyal, but man, they're not going to put up with any BS. Mm-hmm. And that is sad. That's a sad state of affairs, which is going on with the Omaha Lancers. Their 9th head coach since 2021, the 3rd this year. And the guy they hired is like friends of the owners.
Yeah. And you would have thought that with how many big things UNO is doing, that would lift the hockey community in general, and they would both be
somehow
thriving.
They could be in cahoots in some way.
Yeah, you would think like the general vibe around UNO is so high that's going to trickle over into the Lancers. They've been around, they're established. It has been the complete opposite in the last few years.
And I've known some people in the hockey community that have gone to work for them that I hold in high acclaim that are like, I'm out. I can't do this. And man, that just, because that used to be, I mean, that was the start of hockey in this community. And I know there's way back, Mr. Moto, McLean, Gordie Howe, all that. But like where it was dialed in and it was right there in the modern day was the Lancers. And now what they become is an embarrassment. It's an absolute embarrassment to the city of Omaha wearing the Lancer colors and the logo. And they still have a loyal fan base that has been pulled every which way, but they stick with them because they do it for the kids that play. And now I'm hearing this stuff. Jesus.
Because if you lose them, you'll never get it back.
Christ, it makes me appreciate even more Union Omaha and the Storm Chasers and the Supernovas of, and
Shout
technically the Lancers are not a minor league hockey team, but along those lines in this community that do the right thing. And you don't have to talk about, man, a player revolt for the second time in a couple of years.
I mean, you guys know this. You guys do stuff with the Storm Chasers. There's a reason why you go back every year, not just because you love the game. Yeah. Those people are good to you, so you're good to them. It makes a difference. The fans pick up on that as well.
I mean, I miss the enjoyment of Louis Moss cross-checking Andrew Tortorella in the back, and he goes flailing into the boards. Or that stupid Zamboni door at Exarban Coliseum that they couldn't close all the way, and the Stars are playing there in the Clark Cup final, and they dump a puck in, and it hits the Zamboni door where the goalie, Bo Fritz, is behind the net, and he's going to stop the puck. Instead, the puck goes off that stupid Zamboni door because Exarban Coliseum was a rigged place, and it goes into the net. Okay.
I miss a packed house Lancers Stars line brawl.
I miss I miss when I'm doing a game for the Lincoln Stars and there's a brawl in the stands right behind me. Because at Exarban Coliseum, you used to sit like center ice, but you were up and you had all the columns, so you had obstructed view seating.
Oh.
And it was a place where your
obstructed
feet stuck to the floor.
Oh, that's a place. That's like the Hemisphere Arena for me.
I loved Exarban Coliseum. It was a dump, but man, it was hockey. It was so much
I would have
hockey.
loved to take in a game there.
Boston Garden was a dump, and it had all kinds of things that we get nostalgic about now.
Now it's still around, but nowhere, not even close to what they used to be. That's disappointing news. And for the people that work in the front office that head down, work hard every day, man, get out. Get out. All right, quick break, come back, final segment. I got the crossover coming up at the top of the hour in 1620 The Zone.
Like the real big fish. Good job, Peterman.
You got it.
Takes me back.
Hey, at least you've not gone with Mannheim Steamroller.
Too soon?
Yeah, too soon. You got to wait a couple more weeks. Also, apologies. So I mentioned yesterday I'm in a contest with my buddies about how long you can go without hearing Last Christmas by Wham.
Just that version.
Yeah, just that version. We have some people, some listeners that said, I'd like to play along. And then they jinxed themselves because either they were on a plane, on the radio, they heard that song, and so they're out. They are not the master of their own domain when it comes to avoiding Last Christmas by Wham.
If you're a 6A to 6P listener or till 8 as the sports schedule allows, I can almost guarantee you will never hear that song. I say almost because I can't speak for the other shows. I don't know how Josh or Nick feel about it. I don't know how Dan feels about it. But you'll never hear it on this show. Or will you?
No, you will not.
Yeah.
You will not.
Yeah, I can't even lie with a straight face too that I would play that.
I'm putting my streak. This starts on December 1. I'm 2 days in. Putting my streak on the line because I'm going grocery shopping.
Oh, no.
And I do know that the place that I'm going grocery shopping does play Christmas music right now.
Earbuds?
Well,
you listen to your favorite podcast? I don't think that cheating?
I think that's rude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do play bangers at the grocery store. I remember hearing Metallica at a hen house in Overland Park one time.
There you go.
I was out looking for bread and I hear Enter Sandman and I felt the need to go run through something. And
where's the free samples?
Yeah.
At a hen house.
At
I've not heard a hen house reference in ages.
Yeah. Our dog used to know hen house. We'd say hen house and she'd pick up because that usually meant she would go for a ride.
Okay.
She's now deaf. So I can't do that anymore.
Wow, that story just kind of hit the wall there.
I know. But she's great, still athletic, good eyesight, can't dunk anymore. But like I said, great mid-range game, can pass, can really facilitate, great team player.
Good luck to everybody playing avoiding the Last Christmas by Wham.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to see if it ends up blowing up in your face today with that, because that's scary.
Nope. Even at the Talladega Nights Thanksgiving, there will not be that song that'll be played. You were not in here yesterday. So this is the day. So I have Talladega Nights Thanksgiving, and it is Talladega Nights. So people that are coming have to bring their favorite fast food.
I saw this trend picking up, and it looks awesome.
Okay.
I'm trying to bring it to Omaha. I'm a trendsetter. You don't know that, Peter, yet, but you will.
So what would be your go-to?
What would
Gary Sharp
I would
bring?
be all over this.
I'm going to be Chick-fil-A guy.
Okay.
I'm gonna hook my friends up with Chick-fil-A. But it is going to look like the White House having a sports team with President Trump.
It's like the Trump spread.
Yeah. Which, we've
all been there. Not the White House.
Do you want some bougie stuff, or do you want, hey,
do you want to just
food?
unwrap a burger?
Yeah. Those McDonald's fries hit no matter what.
There's uniqueness to this. So somebody has said they're going to bring pizzas.
Okay.
I think because they're very, very cheap, and I know they're listening right now, it'll probably be like Little Caesars.
It gets the job done.
Yeah, it follows the rule. But in Talladega Nights, what do they have? Domino's, right?
This is a great idea. Since we had our liver feed last week here at NRG, we should do this. Everyone brings their favorite fast food. I could get behind this.
Knowing your health history, though, I don't think this would be a good event for you.
Oh, man. You just pop an extra pill and you'll be fine. That's what they used to tell me in the old
context. We need context here.
Yeah. New endorsement? What?
All right. Tomorrow on the show, we will have. You never know what's going to happen today. Never know what's going to happen.
No.
There'll be, and you have to prepare yourself. There will be probably a few more names that you go, whoa, in the portal. Remember, the portal taketh, the portal giveth away.
Dan's playing Wham tonight, by the way.
And next week, Nebraska could be active in the portal, and we'll see about coaching stuff.
Plus, what other drama will happen at the other schools that you can sit back and laugh at them?
Nebraska has an opening for a wide receiver coach. How quickly will they fill that in a position in which tomorrow they're going to add wide receivers, and I think they'd like to go get a couple more in the portal. So filling the wide receiver role by Dana Holgerson will probably be number one at the top of his list, and we'll see if anything else happens. Plus, of course, the huge game tomorrow night between Creighton and KU, which tips at 7:30. When I was looking on tickets for less.
Will you be there, by the way? I don't think I've even asked you.
No, Omaha Men play a really good game tomorrow night. They play Montana State,
that's
so I will
right.
not be
Okay.
there. Greg says
I'll be joining you for that.
You'll be with us on the broadcast.
I will.
Okay. Greg says, been monitoring KU tickets. Prices dropped after Nebraska loss and 2 in Vegas. Was above 100 before for the cheapest. And now, as I said earlier, the cheapest, if you want to sit, let's say you want to sit behind one of the baskets, $229, only $41 each.
That's not bad.
There's a lot more tickets available.
Yeah. I think people bought them with the expectation they were going to sell them for a pretty penny, but now with the price going down, they just may be looking to move them.
Now, if you want to sit in the lower level, it's going to cost you a little bit. You're in the 150 or more. But you want to sit upstairs? You get in for a pretty good price to watch number 1 KU and Creighton play tomorrow night.
Then just look for an empty seat down there. Oh, look, so no show. I'm just take that seat. Did they not let you?
I've not had good luck at the Chai trying to move down.
I haven't been there enough to say I have. I've been to the tournament many times, but we sat in the upper deck. So,
and the lower bowl they police pretty well.
Yeah, the only thing I try to do is same row shuffle to like the end of the aisle if the seat's open.
I hate that. I hate that, man.
But I only do it if I know no one's sitting there. I give it like when I went to the Nebraska Creighton game, I gave it the full half before I was like, okay, the end of the aisle's open.
Hey, 5 minutes into the game, if they should sell rush tickets where any seat's available. If you're not there, let's say 10 minutes.
Oh, I thought you meant the band.
The second media timeout, the under 12 media timeout, they should sell rush tickets. And every seat's available. If you're not there under the 12 media timeout, you're probably not coming.
Then you sell those? You could maybe throw that to your NIL. Anyway.
I like how you're thinking.
Always
so
thinking.
we'll talk about that tomorrow, the KU Creighton game. Big deal. I'm sure, you know what, I've seen it before when KU comes here for the tournament. They usually stay across the street, staying at the Marriott.
I know where the alumni is having a gathering.
I'm sure there will be some autograph seekers that will be hanging outside when Bill Self and Hunter Dickinson and DeJuan Harris show up.
It's like, I need that Greg Gurley's
AJ Storr.
autograph.
Zeke Mayo is back in Omaha.
Hey. Bearing the lead.
Yeah.
Coming home.
And the linebacker that plays basketball, KJ Adams. Do that tomorrow when we join you at 6. Crossover, Connor Happer is coming up next. Have a great day, everybody. Be safe out there and enjoy. This is... Take the emotion out of any announcements today.
Are you talking about the zone? Or are you talking
No. Well, I actually encourage that as well. For Jimmy, for Peter, I'm Gary. It's the Gary Sharp Show on 1620 The Zone.